The events began one sunny day. The main character lay under the tree and admired the waterfall. He was satisfied with his carefree life after rebirth. Without cultivation, court intrigues, but with an official position, the man was disturbed by a miniature girl, his systemic spirit. She asked the owner to tie her to herself and start tasks. The baby assured that he could help the hero to become the owner of the improvement world. But such things were not interested in him. He knew how it works. It looks cool, and in fact, some racing and fatigue. In the past life, Wang Yang died of processing in 007 mode, so I did not want to work again on the system. In this universe, the main character no longer wanted to work. The systemic spirit assured that if he gives her a chance, she would surely be better. The little one thought that the owner refuses her because she was not trying enough and made the decision to become stronger. It was updated to a powerful system of self-destruction. It was enough to hit the head against the wall to accomplish the tasks of the newcomer. The baby reported it to the owner and he told her to find someone else. The man was annoyed that even in the toilet he was not given rest. The systemic spirit returned again when the hero had lunch and reported that she now updated for lazy registration. It is enough to mark in the gate of the spiritual sword sect to receive luxurious awards. Wang Yang did not see the difference between this and a mark at work, so again she refused what he was upset. When the guy was resting under the tree, the baby returned again. But he stopped it immediately, saying that he did not want to hear anything. However, the spirit was enthusiastically reported that the system has been updated to the unsurpassed system of absolute idleness. If you get attached to it, you can get a lot of awards. The man was going to refuse again, but when he heard this intriguing name, the proposal still seemed interesting. The baby explained that after being attached to the unsurpassed system of absolute idleness, the hero will become an invincible in the world of improvement, even just lying. These promises seemed Wang Yang quite suspicious. He asked the spirit if she was not accidentally luring him to be deceived. The system swore that if it deceived it, it would immediately break through the bug. These words seemed sincere, so the hero decided to believe. The baby congratulated that the owner successfully tied the system and immediately received a reward for it: the accounting of the emperor. Wang Yang felt the power that overwhelmed his body. He was shocked that he immediately jumped from mortal to higher level. The system found that its owner was breathing and immediately gave him a reward for a breakthrough: one fruit of chaotic Tao. The man liked that even elementary actions could lead to a breakthrough, and when he reached the second stage of the emperor, he stopped pretending and releasing his strength. The inhabitants of the city were shocked from what he saw. In the distance, a huge flash of light, from which power was felt, stretched. Members of the spiritual sword sect suggested that they could be awaited and ordered to hit the bell 9 times and bring all the elders to the main room for discussions. This force was simply incredible, so people began to assume that a new emperor appeared. They wanted to find out as soon as possible from what school he was. The first thing they did was checked in the House of Secrets of the Great Shen. An emperor named Wang Yang is in the spiritual sword sect. After the release of strength, the main character sat down, supporting his head with his hand, and plunged into his thoughts. He remembered that in his past life, not everything was so smooth, because in 26 years he even kept his hand with a girl. The system expressed the desire of the owner to find a companion of life, and immediately began searching for options. She selected the most suitable women for the hero, and asked Wang Yang to choose. The hero thought that they would need to be achieved on their own. Then the system told the owner not to forget to get a reward for the task of finding a companion of life. The man was surprised that he had not even started dating, but already received the award. Tiny announced that the Empress of the Great Shen, Linglan dynasty, asks for audience from Emperor Wang Yang. The guy praised her for his wonderful job, because the woman came to him. The girl proudly emphasized that this should be the unsurpassed system of absolute idleness. At the gathering, members of the spiritual sword sect discussed the news that the empress of the Great Sten dynasty, which conquered 6 states, arrived personally. They never heard of Emperor Wang Yang and doubted whether he really was in their sect. The elder reported that he had studied the ancestry, and there was no one with that name. He recalled that in the sword-washing pool there is a nameless student with that name. Here is an edited text with corrected spelling, grammatical and stylistic mistakes, preserved in paragraphs. Then, one man remembered that the founder of their sect once studied with a master named Wang. After him, one older declared that this Wang Yang and was a true patriarch, that he constantly hid his name and protected the spiritual sword sect. The chairman ordered Chan Fen to go to meet the emperor and follow him to the pool of the sword, washing to the pool to meet the patriarch. When they came to the place, they got on their knees, bowed, and began to greet a new emperor. Wang Yang asked a baby if it was a reward from the system, but she replied that it was an independent phenomenon, and it is nothing here. The hero decided that it is better to go everything in turn, turned to these people, and asked them to get up. The chairman informed the patriarch that the empress of the Great Sten dynasty asks him. It is unknown for what. Wang Yang suggested the reason for the visit and shocked everyone in that it may have come to a marriage. They did not understand how possible it was possible. The patriarch said that if the empress came, he should meet her personally. Meanwhile, the members of the spiritual sword sect have already met the nobleman who expected the man. Over time, she was disturbed by the thoughts that the Emperor Wang Yang may not want to meet her. Chan Fen was nervously announced that the patriarch was meditating on the rear grief and asked the empress a little more. And soon, Wang Yang entered the hall, accompanied by members of the demonic blade. His appearance and manners were not like the image of the legendary emperor. Noticing this, Mrs. Yo Linlin began to doubt that the court astrologer was not mistaken in his prediction. The man understood that things were bad, because before meeting with Beauty, he did not even dress. The hero ordered the system to quickly give him a spectacular outfit to improve the image. He was presented with an imperial dragon costume. Looking at the new look of a man, a girl with pink hair noted that it was more like the image of the emperor. The elder was also amazed. He did not think that in their sect, the spiritual sword was such a powerful patriarch. Linlin felt that she was really an emperor and that his level is much higher than her own. Then the woman got on her knees, introduced herself, and began to ask Wang Yang to save the Great Shen dynasty. The man was excited by the fact that it was the empress who conquered 6 states. He replied that he knew about their difficulties and asked the woman to stand up. He also added that he has long departed from worldly affairs and does not want to get into the fuss. Linlin insisted that if the emperor was able to save the Great Sten dynasty, then she was ready to accept any conditions. The head of the sect was surprised by the words heard. It meant that the empress was ready to go for 2 big sacrifices. Then she added that if Wang Yang did not dwell, she was ready to even give herself. The members of the sect were incredibly shocked by the herd, as such a statement could be the main news in the world of improvement. Although the man was interested in the empress, he understood that if he agreed, he could cause a lot of problems. Then the spirit reported that Ye Linlin has the most rare body of phoenix and showed it in a systemic window. If a person practices a double improvement with the owner of the body of the phoenix, then it can immediately rise 1 level higher. These words made the emperor think, well, so he tried to decide what to do with her proposal. Linlin swore in a heavenly root that if it breaks the oath, then the sky and earth will punish it and the soul will dispel. In addition, the man was quite attractive, so she would not have to sacrifice herself. The chance to get as a wife of the empress simply falls out very rarely, so the hero asked the woman to show the way. The beauty knees and said that on behalf of millions of the subjects of the Great Sten dynasty, she thanks Emperor Wang Yang. The head stopped the man, saying that the spiritual sword sect could not be without him, because the enemies can use the moment, and then there will be a disaster. He worshipped and asked to think again. The systemic spirit revealed a request and immediately proposed a decision. The baby greeted the owner on receiving the imperial array of 9 heavenly spiritual swords. The hero was pleased that the system was so fast. He reached out the gift of the sect to the head, explained everything, and added that after activation, this thing would protect them from trouble. After that, the emperor raised his hand up and activated an array of 9 heavenly spiritual swords. As a result of this movement, a large number of light blades surrounded the area of the sect for protection. The subjects were pleasantly impressed with what they saw. They believed that now the spiritual sword would rise up because the patriarch's abilities are simply incredible. Linlin felt that this array of 9 heavenly spiritual swords is even stronger than its protective array of the state. She was surprised by the secrets that hid this sect. Then a girl with pink hair, named Qin Yao, knees in front of the patriarch and asked her to serve him. Wang Yang was not pleasantly impressed with the fact that another woman came, because there was a love polygon that complicated the game. The baby greeted the owner and reported that Liu Qinyao has a rare, spiritual communication body, which occurs every 10,000 years. The owners of this type are true, reliable, and caring, and in addition, the owner is understood from half a word. Wang Yang decided that it would be nice to have it, then said Qinyao to stay with him. The head thought that the patriarch still remembers the old feelings and noted that, while next to him, the girl will have a bright future. Then the treasure of the level of imperial rank went down to the ground. The legendary Celestial Crew. Palanquin of Rainbow Phoenix Linlin. The hero noted that in the world of improving, the heaven horses are incredibly beautiful, because in his past life he did not even have a car. The systemic spirit expressed the desire of the owner to have a crew and congratulated the man on receiving the imperial chariot of 6 dragons. Wang Yang noted that if the situation is immediate, then you can use its chariot. Palanquin Phoenix is rarity in this world, and Liu Qinyao was interested in looking at what treasure the patriarch has. Then the emperor lifted his palm up and ordered the chariots of 6 dragons to appear before him. From the sky began to see a fire crew that quickly approaching his master. Going down, the accompanying chariot bowed to the man and greeted him. The members of the sect could not believe that the legendary imperial crew saw with their own eyes. The heroes spent Yelinlin to the chariot and missed her forward to keep the woman first. When everyone took their seats, the man announced that they were going to the Empress dynasty. The course of events is transferred to the protective array of the Great Sten dynasty, which supported a large number of people. One of the practitioners turned to a state mentor and said he could no longer stay, but Miss stressed that even if you have to spend all the forces of improvement, it is necessary to hold on to the return of Her Majesty. People in panic, they saw that the army of the Empire Suyu was about to break through, began to flee in different directions. They begged for the Empress to save them as soon as possible. The enemy forces have already begun an attack on the barrier of the Great Sten dynasty, but they were not able to punch it. 2 of the 4 generals, La Sui, Song Tae, and Zhang Yunqi, were extremely dissatisfied with the fact that the Empress has such skillful methods. They noticed that the woman reduced the protection zone to the outskirts of the capital, thus increasing the power of the protective array. Song Tae instructed the partner and further attack the barrier, and in everything else, he asked to rely on him. The state mentor in thought apologized to Her Majesty for being able to keep protection only until now. Song Tae caused a black dragon and sent it to a protective barrier to break through the defense of the opponents. However, he failed to fulfill his intentions as the creature sparkled someone's magic of the sword. At that moment, the hostile general saw a great gold chariot over their heads. Above her in the air was the Emperor Wang Yang, who reached out in their direction. Zhang Yunqi pointed his finger on a stranger and reported that someone dared to intervene in their battle. They saw 6 dragons that pulled the chariot, which meant that a person was of serious origin. Then, Ye Linlin told the enemies that the Emperor Wang Yang from the spiritual sword sect was in front of them. Zhang Yunqi exclaimed that he had never heard of such an organization and called it a third O short na. These words were extremely angry Liu Qinyao. The girl spoke forward and ordered him not to dare to offend the sect of the spiritual sword. Zhang Yunqi believed that before them a small shackler of the level of body unification, and that to the degree of the emperor, he was still very far. Due to the fact that the sect was humiliated, the system gave the owner the sacred martial art, the formula of heavenly power of Tsangkun. Wang Yang spread his hands to the sides and addressed the generals with a proposal to express his respect. These words were severely angry Zhang Yunqi, because who is this man to ask for recognition in their empire Sui? But his brother tried to reassure him. Taking his shoulder, Song Tae expressed respect and reported that they had been ordered to deliver the Yetter Ye Linlan Empress and asked not to interfere with the case. Wang Yang proudly asked the enemy generals that it would be if he did not agree. The systemic spirit revealed the owner of the murderous intention and increased the formula of heavenly power to Kenkun to the level of great perfection. Song Tae threateningly replied that they would not blame them for merciless. The emperor turned to the cunning system and asked what effect the formula of the heavenly power of Zangkun has. The baby replied that she could absorb attacks of the same level and reflect them with double force. The man turned to the rivals and said that they were not worth it. Wang Yang was going to just stand there and take 3 of their blows. Then he added that if he is injured, they can do everything they want with the Empress. The girls began to worry, but the Emperor assured that these two would not be able to harm him. Zhang Yunqi, with a good mood, replied that if a man stands his 3 beats, then they would go right away. Emperor Wang Yang, without problems, agreed to his proposal and extended his hand forward. After these words, the man directed a powerful blow to him, which, to his surprise, did not leave any scratches on the hero's body. 90% of his strength went to the sea. He felt that this boy had something special. Then Zhang Yunqi used the 3rd technique of the Fist of Shock of the Spirit, a dragon fist that breaks the void. However, even such a powerful attack did not have any effect on the opponent, but on the contrary, caused damage to its owner. Wang Yang asked the opponent mockingly whether his level of the emperor was just a praise. Song Ti felt that his brother was going to use one horrible technique and ordered him not to do so. Zhang Yunqi ignored his words and used a malicious transformation, a demonic body that absorbs the void. Emperor Wang Yang applied in response to the formula of heavenly power, Kinankun, the embodiment of the law. The girls were amazed by the power of the patriarch. Linlin noticed that the hero was able to withstand the full attack of the Emperor's level and suspected that his power even exceeded this level. The man used the formula of the heavenly power of Kenken against the enemy. The return of heavenly power. As a result of the attack, the body of Zhang Yunqi was severely damaged and it flew back. The man was convinced that the opponent used a trick, but he did not agree and wanted additional 3 strokes. But his brother, grabbing him, advised to quench the passion. Wang Yang, hearing that red-haired could not continue, turned to Song Tae and asked if he wanted to try too. The man expressed his respect and nervously answered, stated that they would keep promises and leave. Watching their indentation, the hero wished the generals of the Su dynasty a happy road. Linlin said to the emperor that his martial art was simply incredible, and he was apologizing for this modest performance. The woman reported that there would be a feast in the yard, and expressed her hope that the man would be honored. As the empress organized it, the hero had no reason to refuse. After that, the lady went to the territory of her reign, where many courtmen came to meet her. Ye Linlan presented them with Emperor Wang Yang from the spiritual sword sect and happily announced that he would also become a sovereign of their great Shen dynasty. The courtiers congratulated the new master and wished him and her majesty 10,000 years of life. The baby congratulated the owner with the adoption of worship from the subjects of the great Sten dynasty and reported that the sign was received. Hearing not too pleasantly impressed the man. He asked if the system secretly added a system of tasks that he did not know about, and ordered to confess, threatening to interrupt the connection. Wang Yang grabbed a baby in his hands, asking what it was for virtue points, because there is no such improvement in the ordinary worlds. The girl asked him to calm down and promised to explain everything. She said that these points emerge from respect and worship of other, good deeds, rescue of life, serving the country and the people. It is not easy to collect 1,000 blessings, but the most important rulers are the easiest way to do it. As soon as the hero creates the body of the law from virtue, it will become strong as a cultivator of the stage of spiritual transformation. Hearing this information, the man suggested that the empress was going through the body of the law, but the baby denied it, saying that Ye Linlin had a very rare type of double improvement. The woman noticed the guest's concern and asked if everything was fine and whether he did not like the capital. Wang Yang dinned that he just mentioned something from the past. All residents of the city worshipped the capital of the capital, acknowledging that it truly radiates the divine aura. Xinyao was enthusiastically looking at her patriarch, thinking that she always wanted to be with him. After reaching his court, Yelinlin ordered the most luxurious imperial table to be used to quickly prepare the most luxurious. The lady asked why a state mentor was not visible among the meetings. She was informed that the lady could not come because she spent her hand supporting the country's protective barrier. The empress was angry because she was not informed before. Then she asked where the woman now, and found out that she was taken to the pavilion of celestial mechanisms. Wang Yang asked Her Majesty whether they should first visit a state mentor. Linlin apologized for what he had to see how she lost his self-control. The students were kneeling in front of the state mentor bed, praying to her at least a little better. Arriving in the pavilion of celestial mechanisms, the empress excitedly apologized to the teacher for being late. The woman was gently asked how many times she was repeated to her to be called a state mentor in public. The teacher thanked the elder for the salvation of Linlin and the entire Great Shen dynasty. Wang Yang was also sorry to watch how such a beauty would soon go out. The empress ordered to call a heavenly doctor immediately for a state mentor, but the woman said that it is not necessary to spend strength in vain, because only the pill of 9 transformations can help her. The system revealed a person who needs treatment and hastily brought one sacred pill. It was disappointed because she was able to create karmic connections. The man was thinking about how to do better, leave this pill of 9 transformations, or now save life. As a result, he decided to help the beauty. The emperor asked Her Majesty not to miss and reported that he had the right medicine. Linlin and the students of the state mentor were incredibly grateful to him for his kindness. The woman took 9 transformations from his hands and stretched out to save her teacher. In addition to treatment, this pill also had specific effects, so it is not surprising that it exists only in the celestial world. The empress asked the teacher excitedly whether she had just broken to a new level. The beauty bowed and thanked the elder for the medicine. She not only healed, but also reached the middle stage of the kingdom of the immortal. Then the servant entered the room and announced that the imperial banquet was ready. Hearing this, Linlin invited the guests to the table. At the feast, guests watched the dancing of beautiful maids and waited for them to serve wine from a large bowl. After the rebirth, the hero did not drink wine yet, and he was wondering how strong it was. Tiny found that the owner was going to drink, so the man immediately received imperial art, the technique of transforming wine vapor into a dragon. This technique turned alcoholic vapors, the effect of medicines and poisons, into true these, and significantly increased the speed of body reaction. Now, the hero could not worry about what he eats and drinks. The first glass of Yelinlan suggested that he gratitude to the great Emperor Wang Yang for medicines that saved the life of a state mentor. After these words, the woman lifted the wine to her mouth and drank the first portion, followed by other guests. The second glass of the empress, lifted on behalf of every subject of the great Shen dynasty in honor of Patriarch Wang Yang, and thanked him for the salvation of their integrity. The third bowl was again lifted by their savior and announced that he would be a sovereign of their dynasty from now on. The subjects were extremely shocked by heard words. It meant that now the great Sten would have 2 rulers of the emperor level, and no one dared to underestimate them. Linlan asked for silence and ordered the state mentor to choose a favorable day for her wedding with the great patriarch Wang Yang. Qiniao immediately reported that this is a very serious matter, so you can't hurry. The empress gave an oath of heaven to marry only the great Wang Yang and asked the girl who she was contrary to her. Qiniao replied that not against their marriage to the patriarch, but stressed that all ceremonies should be followed. If everything is organized by the Sten dynasty, it can show that their sect neglects a man. To watch two beauties arguing was quite interesting, and the hero realized that he had no reason to come here. The systemic spirit found that the bishop was preparing for the wedding and wanted to give a bonus. However, the man told her to silence because nothing was decided yet. The minister of the Su Yue dynasty, Qi Wenyuan, learned that a large person arrived in the neighboring empire and came to a meeting specifically. Linlan could not think that they would even send the minister. It seems that heaven wants to destroy their great Shen dynasty. Wang Shang, drinking wine, asked the future wife that this Qi Wenyuan was for the man. The state mentor reported that the Su Yu dynasty is standing for 1,000 years, and now they have one emperor, 2 ministers, and 4 generals. Only 7 rulers of the emperor level, and this man is one of 2 ministers, namely, the left. Wang Shang did not understand why women are so panicked if this person is only at the emperor level. Linlan replied that the left minister is terrible, not only because of his power, but also by the fact that he is the main strategist of the Shui dynasty. She was aware that he is an intrigue, unsurpassed in calculations, could destroy or raise the country with one thought. The emperor asked the systemic spirit what the level of this Shi Wenyuan. But the baby did not find a goal in the field of view, so she could not provide information. Then he told the baby to go, because he would still meet this left minister soon. The emperor began to think that this great man did not want to meet him or considers him unworthy. Linlan bowed her head and asked the guest to go sooner and not interfere in the affairs of the great Sten dynasty. And with bitterness in her voice, she said that for today's mercy, she would only be able to repay in the next life. Gu Linyu warned the empress that if she gives way to their wish, millions of subjects would be in a hopeless situation. Xinyao reported to the patriarch that it is better not to contact the Shuyu dynasty and suggested returning to the spiritual sword sect. The man was indignant that he did not have time to drink and a couple of glasses, as someone came to spoil the holiday. Wang Yang appealed to the empress and was going to offer help. The state mentor immediately understood his intentions. She got on her knees and said that Mr. is truly merciful because he saved their great Shen dynasty from trouble. Other subjects also bowed, saying that the emperor Wang Yang is virtuous, and it is true happiness for the empire and blessing for the people. The hero was a little embarrassed from what was late because Gulin Yu quickly took the initiative. Linlan emphasized that the great emperor is the honorary guest of Dacian dynasty. She was not alone from the fact that they forced him to intercede for them. Wang asked Her Majesty not to be angry and assured that some left minister was not a problem for him, and he would quickly return. Ye Linlan has been gently replied that they have nothing to pay for such mercy, so they can only wait for the victorious return of the great emperor. The left minister Qi Wenyuan stood above the dome of the dynasty and waited for someone to come to it. But by the zero reaction, he suggested that the rivals did not want to be a rose, and the art of thunder would have to be used. Before applying the technique, the main character suddenly appeared and asked the guest to stop. Qi Wenyuan, in response, asked a man if he was that great emperor Wang Yang. The guy said that there was only a traveling mocker and asked how much attention of the left minister Suyua could be worthy. The nobleman heard that this man was destroyed by the body of the law of Jiang Yunqi in one blow, and was surprised by such modesty. Then he told the emperor that if he came to their dynasty, then his situation would be on a level with the minister. Wang Yang replied that it was not suitable for high posts and gave advice. It is not necessary to spoil the relationship between the dynasty. Wen Yuan recalled that the empress has destroyed 6 states and they only restore justice. The emperor noted that although the union was cruel, but after that there was no more wars. which was a great virtue. The minister praised Wang Yang's eloquence, but stressed that it is operated today and should arrest Ye Linlan. The emperor respected Mr. Qi as a man and suggested that today only talk about a pleasant and not spoil their relationship. The minister stressed that in the confrontation of the two states to avoid struggle and asked if there was another way to resolve the conflict. The emperor replied that in the dispute of noble husbands, it is not necessary to expose the swords. You can win the word. Qi noted that it was well said and then asked not to say that he had won dishonestly. The minister suggested that you solve everything in one match. If the Wang brother wins, the nobleman will refuse to pursue Ye Linlan. The guy did not understand why the opponent did not follow the usual rules, because he could not play in the way. The systemic spirit has found that the bishop was preparing to play and activated the AlphaGo system. The man asked if it was the same artificial intelligence that played in the NGO on the blue planet. The baby replied that it was just like that. It was the last reinforced version. Even with a 3-rock-and-4th can defeat the best players in this world. Then the emperor returned to the opponent and replied that he could not give up such an honor, and allowed to walk first. The minister asked Wang if he really gave him a head start. The guy replied that he gave him 2 stones. The words heard sounded for Qi as an insult, because his skill is at least the best in the dynasty and is known in all 8 emptiness. The hero stretched his finger forward and replied that the word of the noble man did not change the 4 horses, and said to the gentleman, "If he wins, then let him do as he wished." The minister replied that if he loses, the sword of the celestial axis with a black pattern would belong to Wang, and he would go without looking back. After downloading, the system showed that the probability of victory is 99.9%. The guy suggested that he would really be able to defeat the enemy. The residents of the dynasty knew that Qi Wenyuan once won the 18 best players, Suwu. His strength was just horrifying. They were not confident in the triumph of their sovereign. Linlan and Qinyao believed that their gentleman would win. But Gu Linyu was excited because the man gave a head start in 2 higher-level player stones. She hoped that it would not cause anything wrong. Qi Wenyuan noticed that every stroke of the enemy is brilliant. It was simply incredible. Everything was the same as in Legends. Even a newcomer as Wang can easily destroy the master. Despite the advantage of the 2 stones, Qi was in a disadvantage. He acknowledged that the emperor's strength in the NGO is really unattainable. On the other hand, the subjects were worried because the left minister still does not signal. But many were sure that Mr. Kui had their plans, so they decided to just wait. Qi Wenyuan could not understand why each course is predictable. Wang Yang noticed that the opponent's thoughts were not focused on the game and suggested that he guessed his secret training. The latest way, the emperor declared that the party was over and thanked him for the game. The left minister still could not realize how possible, because with a 2-stone vote, he still lost. The man began to vomit blood that alarmed the emperor because it was just a game. He did not understand why Qi Wenyuan was so dramatizing, because it is just a party in the way. The system congratulated the ruler and announced that through the game he caused the enemy's soul, and his level fell into the kingdom of the immortal. The guy looked at the spirit with misunderstanding and asked why she has such a strange appearance. He was much laughing with words that the bug happened, so this time the award did not fall out. Suddenly, 2 generals of an enemy dynasty attacked a man, using an axe of split, an explosion-heated blow, a meteor's farewell, a spear technique, and a star. Their attack caused a powerful explosive wave, which was heard up to heaven. The emperor managed to use the art of the heavenly guard of yin-yang, the world of heavenly guard. The generals saw that the enemy was protected by the shell, and the partner ordered the Song Tae to come on the other side. After that, they attacked the guy at the same time, directing an axe and a spear. The emperor asked not to blame him for his rudeness once they seek death. He used the art of the heavenly guard of yin-yang, the return of the heavenly guard. The hostile generals were amazed, seeing the power of the protagonist. Shi Wenyuan turned to the men and shouted to them that they both retreat. He added that he had just been too self-sung, thanked Mr. Wang Yang for mercy and study, and assured that they were holding back his promise. The minister replied to dissatisfaction with the subjects that this emperor is unattainable. His skill of the game may have already touched the sphere of the way. He suggested that it may have been the level of heavenly saint and advised not to consider it a joke. Men did not believe it was possible. The minister announced that he would return and advised the sovereign to no longer target the kingdom of the great Sten. Otherwise, the consequences will be unthinkable. Wang looked at the face of the systemic spirit. It seemed like it was very tight. The baby did this for the purpose of publishing the award for her master, and finally came out to form something similar to the crystal. She explained that it was a fragment of the heavenly journey. No talented cultivator can become the heavenly holy without its comprehension. After the emperor took the crystal, his whole body pierced the flow of blue light. One cultivator felt an incredible flow of energy and realized that it was a fragment of the heavenly way. He did not understand how possible, because the great confrontation has not even started. The sages around the world have also felt its appearance. It was a bad sign, and hard times may come. Many expected a fragment of the heavenly journey, but now they knew that he had reached someone else. One sage assured that this crystal was the key to obtaining holiness, and he could not just give it. After the touch, the man got to the altar, which was in his subconscious. The baby told the owner to put the crystal in the central circle to activate the power of the celestial path. The hero listened to the system and, lifting the wreckage into the air, moved him to the altar by force. After that, the flow of incredibly strong energy stretched into the sky, and the level of the celestial emperor changed from the third to the fourth. In addition, Wang Yang got the path of 9 degree, which gave 3 black and white chips that gave unique opportunities. The man did not understand how they could be influenced and asked the system to explain everything. The baby replied that the hero is now a party leader and can use these chips to help or interfere with others. The girl added that in this role, he can use the sky as a board, people as chips, and everything in the world as a part of a party that only obeys him. Wang asked to explain if he had any other abilities. The system replied that as long as a man can neutralize the pressure of rivals of the same level to drop higher creatures on the level of the heavenly emperor. It disappointed the hero a little because in the novels everything was the opposite. After the emperor returned, the future wife praised him for such a skill in NGO. Wang brought them good news. Shi Wenyuan, having lost in the party, was spiritually declining. His level fell to the immortal king, and he will not soon be worried about the great Shen dynasty. The empress ordered the subjects to bring royal wine as soon as possible to congratulate the sovereign once again after another victory. After receiving a new power, the man decided to change the barrier that defended the kingdom. The system congratulated the owner with the increase in the level of defender of the national continent and the establishment of communication, and awarded the reward, the Holy Sword. The state mentor, looking at the changes, excitedly asked why the protective national system now looks different. After using white chips, the man became interesting, whether they can be manipulated by people. He began to imagine how his future wife would look in an open costume of the maid. The hero assured that there was nothing to worry about, and explained that he has improved national protection slightly. Now, unless the higher being interfered, this barrier would repel any external threat. The Emperor Suyuyu, drinking tea, thought that even the left minister, known for his strategic far, is sometimes mistaken. The exposed announcement that the Ye Linlan female was hired by some Wang Yang, whose power is unattainable, and expressed his hope that the sovereign would suspend actions against the great Sten dynasty. Xuanyu was incredibly angry because his warriors could not overcome even a small kingdom. He ordered the right minister to call his rivals with the ground. The subject began to be pleased with the sovereign to think about everything. because now the critical moment of the northern hike, and it is impossible to destroy the state business because of the minute anger. Junyu threatened that if they do not grab Yelinlin, it will declare a general mobilization and destroy the kingdom to the background. The subjects of the Great Sten dynasty glorified their future sovereign for power and invincibility. The state advisor announced the newlyweds that in 5 days there would be a favorable day for the wedding, so she suggested to start training right now. The empress asked the mentor whether she does not seem to hurry, because such an important event should first be discussed with the sovereign. But the hero was not sure if he had the right to choose. He began to think that before the wedding, he should return to the sect of the spiritual sword to get better. Linlin assured that all the troubles can be entrusted to a state mentor, and he should not worry about it. In the conversation, Qinyao intervened and announced that even if the kingdom of the Great Shen took over the organization, the sect head should return and prepare gifts for the meeting ceremony. The empress acknowledged that Ms. Lu's words are true, because her future husband has recently said that it was an important event for a spiritual sword, so you really need to prepare well. Before Wang with the leader had to go to his hometown, Linlin shared with the teacher experience that sect and kingdom have different traditions, and this can provoke a conflict. Gu Linyu was in response to accompany the sovereign because she is best familiar with wedding ceremonies as an advisor to the Great Sten dynasty. It will be the first marriage of Wang. Even after the rebirth, he did not study it, so he thought that the professionals would better do it and agreed to such a proposal. Finally, the empress said she would be sad for her husband. The hero assured that she would not have time and notice how 5 days he would take her to himself. The woman looked into his eyes excitedly and said that he was not really ready for it. The emperor whispered what she was not ready for: to become his wife or to give him a child. After that, Linlin's face was spilled with red colors, and she insisted on shame that it was too late and her husband to go. To the sect of the spiritual sword, they returned to the luxurious chariot, which once again forced him to make sure that the sovereign is truly divine. Even higher creatures did not have such carriages. The state councillor was interested in who this Wang Yang was, so she asked the man from whom the holy monastery. The hero asked the system that in this world there are holy monastery. The spirit began to list all 10 names: Tai Yi, Xuantian, Wu Fa, Lu Yuan, Yun Chuan. But after the 5th name, he asked to stop. To contact them means to get a lot of new troubles, so the emperor decided to say that he is a traveling cultivator. The state councillor did not expect that the sovereign was a traveling cultivator and recognized what incredible luck and talent he had. The baby was excitedly announced to the owner that a large shutter of the spiritual gate was subjected to a powerful attack. The man was annoyed by the fact that there were brazen who dreamed of attacking in his absence. The enemies tried to break the protective barrier over the city, but it was not destroyed at all. It was suspicious that, although the spiritual sword sect was always invisible, it has such a powerful security shutter. Today, the enemy army necessarily wanted to take possession of the city lands, so she made every effort. Sect managers were worried because the barrier could not withstand. He was personally installed by the emperor, so it is not so easy to break. As soon as they remembered the man, he immediately appeared. Wang dissatisfied with the chariot and asked what was happening. The head of the sect explained that several cultivators just passed, but for some reason they encroached on their protective barrier. Jinyao also became angry because of their arrogance. The emperor was disappointed that the attackers had chosen just to die, because he was going to get married, so it was necessary to finish these wandering dogs immediately. The man asked members of the sect to take care of the state councillor and announced that he would soon return. The rivals heard the dissatisfaction with the emperor because the dogs had come from nowhere and dare to do rage in his territory. The attackers did not like that their sect of wind and clouds humbled, so they threatened. If they did not remove the protective barrier, then when it falls, there would be no stone on the city. The emperor suggested that these scoundrels were thinking of theft and murder, and replied that their words were simply laughing. The head of the attackers said that the spiritual sword sect is not worth such a barrier, so even if they do not take it, there will be others. He suggested that he, humbly, and then they would not kill anyone. The system helped to find out how strong opponents are. One at the level of the great emperor of the second degree. Two at the verge of the level of the immortal king. One at the highest degree of immortal. The man laughed at the naivety of pupils who also dared to cheat in front of him. He just had an unfinished holy sword, and it was a great opportunity to train. For the study of weapons, the system awarded it with the proof of 9 transformations of the divine shining blade to perfection. When the sword materialized in his hand, the emperor advised them to get out until it was too late, threatening that he would otherwise rise. The head of the attackers shouted that the former abbot, when meeting with him, bowed and called him a mentor. The man did not expect that in 200 years in the spiritual sword the such brazen would appear. The student said there was no point in ceremony and you need to get rid of this sect immediately. However, for such words the guy immediately paid. He became the first victim of the emperor's heavenly blade. After a moment, his body flew far away, leaving traces of blood in the air. The enemies were very angry because the hero dared to attack their sect of wind and clouds. The man said that they have humiliated the sect of the spiritual sword, that they could no longer be forgiven. And in addition, they continue to behave so disgusting as if they were looking for death. The head of the attackers was not in himself because this brazen killed his precious student. The man sent a blade to the enemy and said that today, he, the true spirit of the spiritual gate, would destroy the whole sect of the spiritual sword. The emperor replied that he would love his head to hell, so that he would meet again with his student. The man told his brother to quickly use a 3-dimensional, boundless system to capture and kill the enemy. Revenge on their poor student. The partner tried to stop his head, because he felt that this guy was at least a heavenly emperor, and it was necessary to act carefully. But he ignored him. The rivals surrounded the hero, using the unification of the elements of the sun, the moon, the stars, the sky, and the earth, to create an endless system. The atmosphere around him changed her shade to purple, and his celestial sword reflected red sparks. Men by their power reduced the level of Wang Yang to the immortal king of the first degree. The head of the wind and sky sect, sending his blade to the enemy, rushed forward and wished him death. The hero mockingly asked if they really think that this pathetic routine would be able to suppress his cultivation. He pulled the blade forward and instantly returned the level of the heavenly emperor of the 4th degree. One of the men felt that the opponent had returned his strength, and in a panic asked his brother what to do. The head understood it was impossible unless the opponent reached the level of a higher being. He ordered to calm down and assured that the 3-dimensional boundless system would be able to increase their level. The man ordered the partners to attack all together, because he did not believe that 3 at the level of the heavenly emperor would not cope with this boy. In response to their attack, the hero said that he was just a little tickling and asked the opponents if they had a bad break. The emperor solemnly said that his turn to strike his turn and sent his blade to one of the men. One of the attackers warned his brother to retreat immediately, but it did not help. He was already killed in the next moment. About the voting voice, the emperor advised him not to fuss and added that he would now send it after his brother. The head of the sect realized that this guy was too strong and should run immediately. In his thoughts, he apologized to the brothers and promised that he would take revenge on them. The hero saw that the old man was running away and immediately sent him a devastating attack of his sword. He then used the symbol of the scattering of the spiritual essence and pierced through the enemy's body. The system announced the owner, who found a quick burning soul and asked if it should be destroyed. The man said not to worry and added that he would just have a little. The head of the enemy sect was running away, threatening that they would destroy them all. After the fight, they greeted the worship with the victory of their honorable emperor. Liu Qingyao wondered in the nobleman, from which sect opponents. The man replied that from the wind and clouds. Hearing this, the elders were very agitated and in despair did not know what to do now. The state mentor reported that the rector of the sect of the wind and the clouds is a strong heavenly emperor, but behind him is the sect of the heavenly retardant with several higher creatures. The man was disappointed because of the herd, because their alma mater is now only a united period. The chairman said that they still had an emperor. He was immediately broken by the news that after the wedding, the owner would often be in the capital, accompanying the hostess. The shocked LIU now didn't know what would be with their sect. Wang Yang interrupted their conversations and first ordered the meeting to discuss the engagement. Rumors that the great Sten woman came to the emperor herself spread to the sect members quickly. The abbot's face seemed very familiar to them, and when they saw him closer, they recognized Wang Yang from the backyard. When the emperor entered the palace, everyone immediately felt his incredible power. The man rose to the tribunal and announced that in 5 days he would marry the representative of the great Sten dynasty. So he asked everyone to help the state mentor to prepare the sect of the spiritual sword. Many students were dissatisfied that they are forced to work again, because at the end of the month they have certification. The subjects higher in status assured that they would make every effort to organize the emperor's wedding. Then the hero announced that after the engagement, each student, regardless of the situation, will receive 3 cleansing and connecting pills, and each elder 3 pills of enlightenment. Hearing that he would choose personally and will teach the most talented, the head thanked the mentor for generosity. The elder asked the students what they were standing and ordered to thank the highest rector as soon as possible. After that, they immediately kneel and expressed gratitude for the mercy of the emperor. The head danced happily and sang that now the spiritual sword sect would revive its power. Wang Yang asked the system spirit whether he would be able to prepare all these awards. The baby answered that he could rely entirely on her. The abbot of the wind and clouds was able to restore the body to the head, but unfortunately failed. The man wanted to revenge and announced that the sect of the spiritual sword was very humiliated, killing the 5th and 7th brother. The elder realized that the guy was already a higher creature because even a 3-dimensional boundless system could not overcome it. He decided that he could not leave him alive and announced that he went into the open heavenly sect to take a blow and destroy the spiritual sword. The head bowed, thanking the rector for justice. The course of events returns to the palace of the emperor. The white elder controlled the subjects who cut trees, ordered them to do it faster. Mr. G controlled the decoration of the yard so that all the jewelry and lanterns would stand straight. Chinyao also controlled the process and maids, because it is a grand wedding of the High Master, so everything should be perfect. Finding Mr. Liu, the state mentor presented him with a list of the kingdom of the Great Shen. There were boundless golden rise, the celestial fiery altar, the feathers of the resurrected fiery phoenix, a bloody coral from the extreme sea. The man understood that these gifts were very expensive, and their sect would not be able to prepare something equivalent. Lin Yu asked not to worry, because the nobles love each other. Symbolic redemption will be enough. The emperor heard their conversation and stressed that his wedding could not be so frivolous. Even if their spiritual sword sect is poor, they cannot offend the kingdom of the Great Shen. The state mentor apologized for her rudeness, saying that she had no such words. The hero pulled out a list from his pocket and announced that he was already prepared. He was not going to do well with his future wife. It had a sword of heavenly radiance, 7 color rise of light, a jade fan of heavenly ice, a pearl of 9 containing celestial thunder and the jade phoenix that greet the sun. Both Mr. Liu and Lin Yu were shocked. It was possible to prepare such a dowry thanks to the system, and this time the hero was very grateful to her. The baby was happy that these gifts are little things, and that it was best prepared for tomorrow. On the 3rd day, a fuss came among the subjects. The way to the Great Sten dynasty was very distant, and they did not know how to get there. However, in this case, they could rely on the emperor who had a plan. The state advisor asked the lord why the wedding tuple had not arrived yet, but the guy told her not to worry because they were already on the road. After that, a fiery carriage with Pegasus, flying directly to the emperor, appeared in the sky. The systemic spirit was also pleasantly impressed with the wedding tuple. It was the most elite class. Gu Linyu wondered how so many imperial chariots with 6 dragons can exist. Wang told the girl that it's time to leave. After that, they sat down in the carriage and the subjects solemnly held the highest mentor on the road. In the palace of the kingdom of the great Shen, the bride, whose eyes were hidden under the board. When the woman heard that the lord finally arrived, she wanted to remove the appearance, but the maid tried to stop her, because it could not be done. The emperor entered the hall, and his beautiful bride and her incredible outfit rushed into his eyes. The man did not expect that after the rebirth would be able to marry such a sweet girl. When it's time to ceremony, Wang Yang asked Ye Linlun whether she agreed to go with him, hand in hand, all his life. After receiving the consent, the man reached for the bride's plate and began to shoot him slowly. Today, the empress was even more beautiful. The pink outfit made her image very tender. The guests began to greet the young people on their marriage and desire the Lord and the state of eternal love and consent. After that, the man brought her hand into the yard, where they were waiting for a refined carriage. Wang assured his wife that now it is not necessary to worry, because it is not a bedroom yet. They will only sit on the crew. However, their ceremony dared to interrupt the attackers, trying to break through the protective dome. The girls also noticed the environment and looked to see what happened outside. Linlin suggested that it was again people from the Zhui dynasty, and even at such an inappropriate moment. Wang asked his lover not to worry and promised to return soon. Former enemies were actually attacked by the dome again. Qi Wenyuan could not resist his sovereign and now got into a difficult situation. 3 generals annoyed that the protective barrier this time became even more hard than before, and they did not go to break it. When the emperor climbed up, the left minister expressed his hope that everything was well with him. Wang ordered him to stop pretending because he dared to violate the contract, and for the 3rd time worries the kingdom of the great Sten. Qi Wenyuan answered nervously that the will of the ruler is adamant, and if Wang Yang gave away the empress, he is ready for any compensation. Today the guy had a wedding, and he did not want to shed blood. But once the Suyui dynasty insists, the hero threatened, holding the holy sword in his hands, that none of them will go alive today. The left minister appealed to Mrs. Jushin and asked for permission to do this man, which he agreed. Having folded his fingers, Qi Wenyuan said that the dragon is flying. The tiger growls, the red bird dances, and the turtle guards, and asked for the power of 4 elements to obey his call. Under the feet of the emperor appeared a pentagram, and on all sides it was surrounded by giant animals. Wang praised the rivals as they were able to gather a dragon, a tiger, a bird, and a turtle in one place. And then he shouted that for him they were nothing more than snakes, cats, chickens, and frogs. In the hands of the man appeared the holy sword. He was about to break the battle order of the opponents. Wang immediately guessed that if you remove Qi Wenyuan, which commands the system, you can easily destroy it. So, moving out of place, he first went to the left minister to finish everything as soon as possible. Qi Wenyuan realized that the rival's blow would be incredibly strong and ordered the subjects to help him. The emperor sent 9 catastrophes of heavenly evolution to the opponent, a breakthrough of thunder and wind, and the magical array of 4 symbols of destruction. The left minister was struck by such a sword technique. He understood that if it were not for defense, he would have died on the spot. His magical array was really amazing, because the blow of the destruction of heaven had to destroy Qi Wenyuan. Watching the man desperately beating, the empress ordered her a sword to help destroy the protection of opponents. In response to the order, the state councilors stressed that this cannot be done because the magical array of 4 symbols of destruction of demons was created by a sacred monastery of heavenly secret, and it can only destroy a higher being. The woman was not pleased with the fact that they should sit with their hands and watch the head of state humiliate people from a neighboring dynasty. But Lin Yu assured that the emperor would be able to win. Wang noticed that the minister's wounds healed very quickly. This magical array really had its secrets, and this meant that the man would have to make more effort. The hero squeezed in his hands and was going to use the technique of 9 catastrophes of heavenly evolution, reincarnation. He sent a blade to the opponents and wanted to see how they would cope with this attack. The left minister shouted in response so that he did not dare to be so arrogant. The man put his palm forward, and at that moment, the giant paw of the dragon began to approach directly to the emperor. The hero easily restrained her with the help of a celestial sword, knowing that he would have to come up with another way to destroy an array. Accompanied with these thoughts, he appeared to a system that asked the owner not to worry, because she came up with a way of destroying enemy equipment. The system showed a strong desire of the owner to destroy the artifact and awarded him the heavenly artifact, Divine Eye. The man thought it was a fiery eye like Sun Wukong, and it turned out that it was a heavenly eye like Yang Jian. He sent his view to the enemies and was going to find out where this turtle is a weak place. Using the technique received, he was able to achieve the result in a short time. Then the hero sent 9 catastrophes of heavenly evolution to the enemies of the sword. The incision of the heavenly palace. The hostile generals felt instant weakness and unpleasant sensations in the body and began to cough with blood. Jiang Yunqi did not understand what was happening with his level. From the Imperial second degree, he switched to the average level of the King of the Immortal. The man understood that it was a trick of a wicked Wang Yang. In response to his name, the emperor thanked the general for even before his death. The hero appeared behind his back, and the rapid wave of the sword cut the body of the opponent in half. He used the technique of 9 catastrophes of heavenly evolution, a change in the imperial star, and lowers the opponents to the average king of the immortals. The left minister was incredibly impressed. Sustaining the power of Wang Yang, he also dropped from the 5th degree emperor to the initial imperial status. The hero saw that only Qi Wenyuan remained alive, and materializing a huge magic ball, was about to direct it on him. He used one of the strongest attacks of the 9 catastrophes of heavenly evolution. However, he was genuinely surprised when he saw that his intentions were spoiled by another hostile opponent. The right minister became the Qi Wenyuan in defense, and then she shouted loudly that she would not allow her husband to be killed. The emperor acknowledged that Juixin was a serious opponent. She calmly blocked his blow to the sword of 9 catastrophes of heavenly evolution. The boy was interested in what level her strength. Then the systemic spirit reminded that the owner can use the divine eye to find out the opponent's level. The man listened to the advice of a baby and sent the resulting force to the right minister. But for some reason, the power did not work as needed. Everything that the emperor saw is an elegant girl's body in underwear, with a print of pig. The scene did not hit him much on his head. He noted a strong contrast between the pink shade of body clothes and blue armor. The systemic spirit was excitedly informed the owner that he had incorrectly used the equipment, because it was just an X-ray function. Red Jushin wished the rival of death for being looking after others. The emperor was embarrassed by the fact that the right minister may be ashamed, because he thought that he was just a doll. Jushin squeezed her long spear and attacked a brazen opponent. Applying the divine eye again, the hero found that the girl was 8th imperial level when he is only on the 4th. The right minister used the spear technique of the starry sky. The moon disappears, and the star falls. Wang Yang continued to block the rival attack, but every time it became more difficult. The power of the 8th degree of the imperial level indeed inspired a trepid, so it was necessary to be more cautious. Qi Wenyuan appealed to Mr. Wang Yang and recommended him to give up, explaining that the right minister Yuexin has a force capable of destroying the whole state, and was certain that it could not be overcome. Wang Yang did not like such arrogance because what is the victorious to indicate? He sent 9 catastrophes of heavenly evolution to the Minister of the Sword, the incision of the heavenly palace. While the emperor's attention was directed at Qi Wenyuan, the rival took advantage of the moment and attacked the man. Fortunately, the hero noticed it in time and was able to dodge back from the blow of a long spear. Having made a flip in the air, Jushin was going to hit the spear of the starry sky again. Stars that attack the moon. From the very beginning, the Emperor noticed one feature of the rival which did not give him rest. The body of the right minister was incredibly flexible. He almost believed that he was really a doll. The system was distracted by his thoughts, warning about the spear. The man almost got caught, distracted by the figure. The baby wanted to encourage the owner with news that could use secret technique to immediately increase it to the level of a higher being. However, Wang believed that if you use the golden finger, the game would be uninteresting, and asked him to give him a little more. The hero recalled that he collected many points of merit and asked the system whether they could be used. The baby reacted happily to the owner's intention to turn them. The system awarded the man the sacred technique Record of the Holy Road of Integrity. He was pleased that the scores were finally needed. The hero mastered the received gift and instantly reached the level of the Emperor of the 9th rank. Own level of cultivation and +4 turned everything into the body of the Emperor of the virtue of 9th degree. His strength was already level with the supreme creature. After reincarnation, the hero thought that now you can have a little fun with the right minister of the Zhui dynasty. Jushin felt a significant increase in the enemy's level and asked why he suddenly became stronger. Explaining her hand forward, Wang Yang suggested that the girl approach and find out how much more powerful. The woman perceived these words as a search for a rapid death by a guy and applied a stream of starry spear against him. The fall of the meteor. Wang mockingly said that the firefly can also compete with the glow of the sun and the moon. With the help of one of the techniques of the Sword of 9 Heavenly Catastrophes, the hero knocked out a rival of a long spear. He got into his hands, and the man wanted to find out what rank this treasure was. In this world, there were ordinary, rare, spiritual, immortal, imperial, sacred, and heaven. The baby did not expect that this spear was sacred, but due to damage, his force was only at the level of the artifact of the immortal. Jushin was extremely dissatisfied with the fact that her weapons were taken away. She extended her hand forward, demanding to return her property. The Emperor replied that good children could not be waved with sharp things, and added that it would interfere with it. The right minister attacked the man with the intention of returning the weapon, but behaved as if a child. The Emperor suggested that her mind was subordinated to someone, so he decided to reassure her first. Wang grabbed the girl by her shoulder and cut her down with one stroke of his fist, from which she immediately lost consciousness. The baby noted that it is badly cruelly to treat the beauties, to which Wang replied that he had to do it, because in the 8th stage of the Great Emperor, and asked to come up with how to tie it. The system congratulated the owner with a victory over the ancient combat spirit, and awarded sacred equipment and rope that connects the immortal. The Emperor noted that the cord is a useful thing, but he did not quite like the mystery of new skills. When the man looked at what he was called, he did not understand how the check was at all. The technique was called Maintenance and Repair of Inflatable Dolls. The baby assured that there was nothing to worry about, and changed the title to the Dukans of the Tiansh Puppet. It was better, but it sounded too high. When the Emperor began to return with the woman in his arms, Qi Wenyuan pleaded to wait. He reported that Miss Juexin was the most important minister of the dynasty and asked not to take it. The man was even ready to die for her. Wang has noted from the top that let his pathetic life be better to convey to the message to the Emperor Su. The hero ordered to pass on thanks for such a gift for a wedding. Then in a cold tone he warned that if their dynasty dies again, he would wipe her from the face of the earth. Finally, he decided to convey to the scoundrel Emperor Su that soon the hero would destroy his kingdom, so let him prepare and clean his neck. The left minister bowed and replied that he would deliver the message to his ruler. The empress was very worried about her husband and seeing him, immediately asked if everything was well with him and whether he was not injured. The state councillor encouraged that the sovereign had just overcome the enemies and should be all well with him. Wang threw a girl on the floor and reported that he was a right minister of the Zhui dynasty. She suffered defeat and would now be captured. The girl called the hero a scoundrel and began to demand that he release her. In response to the noise, the emperor tied her mouth and pressed his strength to the fifth rank of the king of the immortal. The man asked her to close somewhere, assuring that he would further understand himself. The maid replied that they could entrust the matter to her. Wang approached the bride and suggested better to go on the road, because it is impossible to be late for a wedding ceremony. After the emperor took her in his arms, Linlin replied that she was completely resting on her lover. The subjects were exalted by the grand crowd to the palace of Her Majesty and the future sovereign. The representative of the Big Antiquity Pavilion welcomed Mr. Liu on this significant event. He did not expect that in the spiritual sword sect was such a powerful master of the higher emperor. The old man noticed that the guests also had emperors and wondered that they sent representatives to the banquet, because they usually did not even look in their direction. Even other significant organizations, such as Yunhua, the Palace of Heavenly Turquoise, a sect of 9 flowers, have sent their people. With such a power of the mentor, one could really become a number among them. The head noticed the elevated chats of colleagues and ordered them to meet the guests quickly, because it was difficult for him to follow everything on his own. The members of other sects actively discussed the incredible attitude of the spiritual sword, because who could think that the great empress would still agree to go for their representative? Вони почали поширювати неприємні здогади про те, що імператор Простак Альфонс, що збирається жити за рахунок багатої дами. But they were convinced that the Lord, most likely, was also scary as the night. The guests had fun to discuss such gossip, but the guy from the sect of the spiritual sword who was accidentally found was not at all laughter. He was incredibly annoyed that a brazen laughs at such a significant event to offend the organization. He wanted to use his strength to teach a man. One of the attendees noticed Zixuan intentions and, having put his hand in front of him, ordered to stop. The guy explained to his brother that the man is a master of the level of the great emperor from the Golden Gate Palace, so it is not necessary to drain him. The young couple finally arrived in the palace, and all those present met them with captured views. No one expected that the empress would be such a terrestrial beauty. It was a real luck that such a woman came to the sect of the spiritual sword. Liu Qiniao was extremely annoyed by the sublime exclamations that the supreme mentor and the lord is a really perfect couple. Many young boys envy the Wang Yang's luck when they finally saw the Ye Linlin Empress. One man approached the couple and said boldly that he did not expect that the great Sten would be so beautiful. The representative of the Golden Gate Palace suggested that the woman throw this Alfonso and instead marry him. Holding aggression, Linlin replied that today is a big day of her marriage with the sovereign, so she does not want to arrange a scandal. The guy liked the hazardous women. Then he went closer, looked at her and offered an agreement. If the beauty agrees, it will help to deal with the Zhu. Some from the crowd recommended the Empress to succumb to Mr. Sit, because he is known as the son of a man from the eastern continent who has long reached the supreme level and has influenced even in Venuan. Wang put his hand on the shoulder of the man and threatenedly said that he was indifferent to his palace of the Golden Gate and threatened that he would die today. Sit was surprised that the spiritual sword sect dared to talk so boldly with him, and then he suggested that the match, the one who wins, would become the bride of the Empress. The attendees did not see such saturated engagement for a long time. Someone made a couple and put 80,000 spiritual stones on the victory of the young man, and someone 60 on the main character of the event. Wang was just a big third-degree emperor, so it was not a problem to defeat it. The man proudly said the opponent that if he is so tearing into the world, he would help him. After a moment, the boys went out into the yard and stood opposite each other. Many people gathered to watch their duel. Sit was sure that Wang had no idea what treasures are in large sects, and reported that in his hands a sacred artifact was a lunar flute of illusions. He was extremely annoyed by the opponent's words that he did not expect that the Golden Gate Palace would be so generous, delivering such a gift to the wedding. Sit reported that it was no gift, but his life artifact, to which the emperor replied that after the death of the boy, this thing would belong to him. The young man wanted to teach the brazen for such words, so he started playing the flute, releasing a magical tune. His technique, called an ancient song of five perfections, the dragon roar of the sea, extended throughout the arena and even above it. The effect of the flute was directed not only to the enemy, but also to ordinary viewers. He depressed their consciousness. Feeling in their heads were driven by men, and they begged for someone to deprive them of their suffering. Sit did not understand how possible that the opponent was still moving, because from the lunar flute of illusions even the Supreme could not resist. The Emperor pulled the blade forward and boldly asked the opponent that he was singing it, assuming that the funeral tune. The hero swung his weapon and sent 9 catastrophes of heavenly evolution to the boy. A powerful attack locked not only the opponent, but also for men standing. Young cultivators did not understand how the guy was defeated by one blow, because he was the son of the head of the Golden Gate Palace. Holding the Sit AO for his hair, the Emperor threatened that the one who dared to arrange a crazy will also share his participation. Such a sharp announcement immediately depressed the spirit of men, they thought, just to come and eat. And here it happened. The head of the spiritual sword sect asked the noble not to worry about the little things, but to continue drinking and having fun. An annoyed man realized that now, because of Sit-Ao, their organization completely spoiled the relationship with the Golden Gate Palace. The organizers announced the start of the ceremony and invited the brides to enter the hall. Wang Yang was incredibly excited before such a significant event, with enthusiasm for looking at his beauty. The guy did not expect that after the rebirth would really get married, and even on such a beautiful lady. He swore that he would never let the Empress. Xinyao was a leading ceremony. She joyfully asked the young people to make the first bow of heavens and earth. The second worship should have been parents, but the parents of the Supreme Mentor were not here, and the relatives on the Linlan side were not invited. Ms. Liu realized that he should somehow smooth the situation. The girl surprised everyone with the fact that she missed the second and immediately started with the third bow, married. She solemnly announced that the couple could now go to the rest. Xinyao annoyed the laughter of the members of the guild, because if so smart, they could hold the ceremony themselves. Wang Yang gently took a smiling wife by the hand and suggested going to the room. Upon coming to the bedroom, the emperor lit a red candle on the table, and Linlan was shyly waiting for him to the edge of the bed. Wang was approaching, and a calm voice began to say something, but his wife ahead of him in the initiative. Linlan shared with the cute that the state councillor had long told her that they were doing on a wedding night. Wang was glad that Gu Linyu even thought about it, and he would not have to blush before the Empress. Sharila Linlan lay on the bed, turned to her lover, and asked what he was waiting for. The man could no longer restrain himself, began to undress with the fire in his eyes, and dived to the cute in bed. The systemic spirit wanted to look a little after the young, because such a spectacle is very captured. However, they made her look at the most interesting thing, causing the baby to be very angry. The emperor pushed the spirit, emphasizing that children cannot be looked after by the marriage night. The offended baby was justified, which was simply checking whether the task was completed. At the foot of the estate, one of the subjects came across the head of the sect, not understanding why he is also here. Liu explained that the first marriage night of the great emperor is a rare event that happens once in 10,000 years, and if you use this chance, it can help in cultivation. Hearing such an excuse, the guy noted that the head of the sect is truly far-sighted. Qin Yao held a huge hammer in the hands and was incredibly angry because they, hiding behind training, came to look at another's marriage night. The boys tried to assure the sister that it was not what she thought about, suggesting everyone to discuss everything. Liu was not satisfied with this proposal, so she quickly gave them a shone and ordered not to come here. Looking at the estate, the girl imagined how good it would be if she was in the place of the Empress. Yi Linlan has informed Cute that she feels her level of cultivation rapidly. The Empress did not expect to break into a new level in this way. Wang thanked his wife and assured that if it were not for their transmission of energy during the merger, he would never have been so easy to break through, though it was in fact a merit of the system. At dawn, the whole yard was on their feet because someone dared to hit the soul of the sect. The head gathered all the subjects to find out who did it, asking if they really do not know what 9 beats in this bell tower mean. Then the guy approached the throne and congratulated the Supreme Mentor and His Majesty to the Empress. Liu stressed that it was his fault, who had brought up the students badly, and one of them dared to hit his soul 9 times, disturbing the peace of the couple. The Emperor asked his head not to rock himself and was satisfied that he made 9 blows. Liu was very embarrassed because so many blows to the soul was threatened with the sect's existence. He did not understand that the mentor really thought. Wang Yang, drinking, reported that he did it today to gather all members of the organization. First, to thank them for their marriage support. He also added that he prepared the promised awards that lay right behind the head of the sect. Liu replied that it was too generous because they just performed their duty. There were pills of purification, association, and even concentrating that so needed the head for a breakthrough. The man was glad because the spiritual sword will finally get rich. The second reason was that the emperor wanted to choose several talented students and personally engage in their training to enhance the power of their sect. The chairman assured that the supreme mentor can trust him, because no one knows the true potential of the students of the spiritual sword. Linlin shyly informed the suite that her cultivation had already reached the middle stage of the King of the Immortal, and asked if she wanted to give her some more tips. The emperor told her lover that they would return to Yuinin's pavilion in the evening. He would arrange for her an individual class and help to break through. Linlin quarreled for a suite for not being ashamed, because he could at least say it behind the closed doors. Jiniao began to think about whether it was a joke or not. She would also like an individual activity with the emperor. A few minutes later, the head returned and reported that he had led the best students to their sect. Wang Yang almost choked with his drink, seeing who just led Liu Uya. After all, the emperor instructed him to find the talented students of the sect, not to gather all the elders. The chairman assured the supreme mentor that only those who really have impressive abilities fall into the sect of the spiritual sword. The emperor scanned them with his ability. In this universe, there were such ranks of talents for cultivation: ordinary, purified, spiritual, heavenly, sacred, and congenital. Tao Tilo. Liu Qiniao possessed the talent of the holy body, and its cultivation was at the turn of the stage of reincarnation of the spirit. Most of the elders had a celestial level and were at the initial stage of reincarnation of the spirit. Only one of the men had the talent of divine beauty, and its cultivation was at the highest stage of laying the basics. The head of the Liu Uya sect had a celestial level and was in the middle stage of merger. The emperor understood that with the potential such as the spiritual sword, the presence of a holy body in Xinyao, just luck, sent by ancestors. He shared with his wife experiences that there are too few strong figures. Linlin said not to worry and promised that when they would return, she would hang decrees across the country and collect the best students. The man was incredibly rejoiced in the herd, because the Big Shen has millions of people, and real children of fate should be found. The systemic spirit has found that the owner wanted to find real talents, gave the task and the reward for him: a set of sectarian techniques. They had the following names: 3 years to the stage of birth of the soul, and 5 to great completeness. Swordmaster, from a newcomer to an expert. How to harden a great emperor. Self-discipline of the supreme. The emperor took care of the little one that it was. What she apologized and replied that it was a systemic bug, and reported that she had already corrected everything. The hero instructed the elders to practice the 9-fold secret art to achieve completion as soon as possible, and tribute. Mo Zixuan, he gave the technique of breathing to study it with his brothers and sisters. She had to replace them with basic sect learning. The boys sincerely thanked the mentor, but the elders began to fight among themselves for the right to master the technique first. Qinyao wondered that even before the emperor, they could not behave decently. The emperor addressed the girl and said that if she mastered the divine music of the immortal goddess, then her strength would not give way to the supreme level in the future. Liu did not expect it at all. The baby noted that the owner is really insightful, because this technique is perfect for the sacred body of inspiration. The girl began to thank the supreme mentor. She was glad that he cares about her, that she gave the technique to achieve such a high level. Now that everyone received gifts, the emperor could not leave his wife without a ward. He stretched her technique called Song of Harmony, which was created by the ancient holy emperor, and believed that she would perfectly fit them. Yelinlin began to read the contents of the book to understand what this miracle technique has. After studying the Empress, she told her lover that if this festive harmony is so perfect, then tonight they have a good study of it. The Lord was satisfied because she did not expect that she would even get a gift. The course of the events is transferred to the majestic palace of the Golden Gate, where the father of the killed Sitao lived. The Minghui's abbot demanded that Sit Xiaochen immediately came out, but the servant told the woman that the head of the sect, before traveling to the seclusion, ordered no one to bother him. The Lord called the former man with a scoundrel because his son was killed, and he sits, laying his hands. The servant asked the abbot not to shout. Everyone understood her grief, but the head was now in the decisive stage of the breakthrough, and if it is disturbed, the Golden Gate Palace could be threatened. Minghui saw that everyone spit on her son, so she decided that she was avenging for his death. She considered Sit Xiaochen a soulless old man, and realized that she would have to seek help from one person. As a result, the sect of the spiritual sword stirred up new troubles. Someone tried to destroy the protective barrier again. Before that, the emperor just conducted training in the basics of martial arts for Qinyao. Suddenly, he heard a bright voice called a woman and a lover and a spiritual sword sect to get out immediately. Linlin reported that the protective barrier was attacked. The empress felt that these people clearly came with bad intentions. Wang Yang assured the cute that there was nothing to fear and said he would go to see who dared to challenge fate. Qinyao became very angry, learning that someone dared to appear in the spiritual sword sect and arrange a mess. She asked the supreme mentor to allow her to go out and pluck these brazen. The emperor asked the girl to take care of the Lord and assured that he would return soon. The enemies tried to break the protective barrier, but their successes were insignificant. He was not destroyed. The sage reported Minghui that this sect of the spiritual sword is a surprisingly powerful protective dome, and it does not look like a ninth organization. Wang Kui appeared unexpectedly for them and stressed that if a man did not reach a supreme level, he should not spend his hand on it. The old man asked the boy where he came from and advised him to be more careful, and then he would destroy with the spiritual sword sect. The emperor emphasized that he never hides his name and replied that he was the supreme mentor of the organization Ivan. Wang Yang. Minghui, when he heard his name, wanted to pounce and shouted to return her son's life. The cousin stopped the woman, asking not to fever, assuring that she could rely on him. The emperor knew that the abbot was a nun, this man was a Taosa, and Sitao's father was a head from the Golden Gate Palace. He suggested that the Confucian had chosen into that woman, and laughed. The Tangquan Zuishi ordered the guy to silence, threatening that he would break him today. The man started the attack using the blade of the illusory turquoise wave. Wang Yang was going to answer the technique of 5 elements of the great heaven. Without any problems, he created a barrier around him that protected against an enemy attack. The Tangquan Zuishi did not understand how this boy had absorbed his sword as if nothing was, and shocked it that he had already reached the supreme level. The hero said that he could understand their feelings and suggested to finish this work right here and now. The Taos wanted to offer the cousin to retreat, but he ordered him to be silent because her son was killed and it could not be notified. Minghui threatened that today it will not only destroy the sect of the spiritual sword, but also make Ye Linlin's wicked, marrying her son in the afterlife. He heard in the emperor incredibly strong anger because no one dared to offend his wife. The systemic spirit was delighted that the owner again had a killing intention. The emperor began materialization in the hand of his heavenly blade of 9 paths. Earlier, the man thought that to get enemies, it was like shooting a rifle on sparrows. Today, he saw that it was really a necessary measure. Wang Yang promised to scoundrels that he would send them to sit AO into the underworld, because the family should be together. The system found that the owner wanted to reunite his relatives and awarded the sacred technique, the method of 3 souls, to transform the spirit. The baby was enthusiastically asked the man whether he was not wanting to look at the gift. The emperor replied that he would do it later, and now will deal with this talkative nun. Tanquan Zuishi tried to cause something to attack the opponent, but it was doomed to failure. The swords of the illusory anger and 9 troubles of heavenly evolution have faced each other. Minghui was angry that in all these years the cousin has learned nothing and could not even cope with a pathetic puppy. Tanquan Zuishi realized that they would not be so easy to kill the guy, so the couple combined their hand and used the technique of double sword of water and fire. The emperor was dissatisfied that these braziers also dared to use some paired technique for lovers. The system tried to assure the owner that he should use a new technique against them. The 3 souls for reincarnation of the spirit was analogous to the technique of 3 pure forms. So the man decided if the opponents use a steam sword, then they would not mind if they would answer a triple. Tanquan Zuishi could not understand what it was a sinister skill. Kuzena told him to calm down because she was certain that it was exactly an illusion, and only one of these bodies is real. Copies of the emperor surrounded them on all sides and began to attack. The couple was barely managed to fight away. Taos felt that these strokes with a blade had an incredibly powerful power, which meant that the boy was really at the supreme level. Suddenly, the man heard the cries of the cousin, and looking back, saw that one of the opponent's attacks had hit her. He immediately rushed to a woman whose mouth went blood to pick up her falling body. Tanquan Zuishi suggested that the emperor accept his life in exchange for the life of a cousin. But the woman shouted that even in hell he would not forgive this freak. In the superior tone, the protagonist apologized, emphasizing that he has a bad mood today, so they will both go to the world. After receiving such an answer, the Taos realized that it all went too far. And there is only one thing. Zuishi rejected Minghui and shouted that even the cost of his life would take Wang Yang in hell. The baby warned the owner of the danger that this man was going to undermine himself. Taos approached the emperor and finally shouted the cousin so that he would run immediately. The woman realized that it was not necessary to turn to this worthless, but to wait for her husband, Sit Shaochen. Minghui managed to move away from the incredible explosion that distributed after the words of the deceased. The mother was convinced that even if he was at the supreme level, even he could not escape. However, the woman forgot about the warning that none of them will return alive today and became the next victim of the emperor. The hero waved the heavenly blade and pierced the helpless body of the enemy. Minghui warned that after her death, the student and her husband would not leave it, and now he has destroyed the relationship with the Taoism. The system told the owner that he was really incredible because he was challenged by 3 teachings: Buddhism, Confucianism, and Taoism. The hero took the baby by the shell and asked if it was also the granum of its plan. The girl assured that she never thought something against him and always tried to help with her best. After that, the emperor released her in the hope that everything was, and said to return, because maybe Linlin began to worry. Xinyao rejoiced that the supreme mentor again defeated the fools that dare to attack them. But the wife was very worried about whether everything was fine with her husband. The emperor replied that these troubles were solved without much effort, so everything was well with him. The man informed the head that the attacker was the mother of the same Sit Ao, who staged a mess yesterday and attacked his wife, and added that she brought with him a cousin named Tanquan Zuishi. Hearing this name, Lu recalled that he was a person from the monthly Flare of Water, and in a panic asked what to do now. He explained what a group of 4 like-minded people, connected by love for art, refers. In the Confucian world of the Eastern continent, their names are widely known. Liu knew that the power of the supreme mentor was unattainable and hoped that others would hardly come and interfere with the spiritual sword sect from the moon glare. The emperor asked that the students were not very worried and simply continued to train carefully for the techniques he gave them. However, the problem was that they had little energy, so it is difficult to exercise. Wang Yang understood the situation and thought why they would not find a large clan and grasp its spiritual sanctuary. The head replied that this cannot be done in any case, because it could cause a war between sects, which will inevitably force the Holy Land. The emperor understood that it was really very troublesome. He was most afraid to get involved in karma, and if he was delayed, he can also demand death. The man wondered if there was another way, and the baby answered the owner that he could trust the case to her. The system revealed a strong desire to develop a sect and awarded it with a stone of a purple yard. The girl explained that it is enough to place this thing in the depths of the spiritual vein of the sect and will increase the level, increasing the concentration of spiritual energy. The students saw the unusual thing in the hands of the supreme mentor and began to ask what it was. Upon learning that it is a legendary stone of the purple yard, the elder was incredibly shocked, because even ancient large sects do not have this treasure. Receiving it, the emperor squeezed the treasure into the ground to change the spiritual field. The elders did not understand why he did, but later saw the effect. The wife emphasized that her cute is very strong, because the spiritual energy around became much more saturated. Qinyao also felt instant changes. This moment was great for breakthrough, so the head of the sect ordered the students to sit down and start practicing. Men sat in a lotus pose and began to concentrate on cultivation, saturating their bodies with spiritual energy. They instantly felt the effect. Many have gone the stage of laying the basics, and someone even formed a golden nucleus. Linlin came to her lover and noted that spiritual energy was now very saturated, so she was curious about why he was training with them. Wang replied that meditation is a slow way, and it is better to double the effort through steam cultivation. The woman immediately ashamed, because now she is not even a knight. But he offers it. Breeding in the morning, the Supreme Mentor noted that yesterday's steam cultivation was too intense, so he was barely able to stand up today. Rising from the bed, the man came, hugged her lover, and asked why she woke up so early today. The Empress was surprised to recall that today, the day of his return to the father's house, and in the abominable expression, Wang realized that he had forgotten. Linlin stressed that she recently destroyed 6 states, so the dynasty is still unstable. She needs to be there to keep everything under control. In addition, many cases have been collected that need to be resolved. Seeing into the system, the hero found that his karmic body became much weaker, and the degree of the emperor decreased to the 6th. The baby explained that this is normal, because the man has experienced several duels, and to restore or increase the level of the karmic body, it is necessary to restore the former amount of karma. Then she added that when the owner reaches the level of the Emperor of the Law, it would no longer be a problem. This meant that you needed to arrange something grand in the big sten to collect more karma. The course of events is transmitted to the room of one of the sages of the Shui dynasty, which was visited by General Chu Tianchen. At the invitation to the visit, the man suggested that the old prodigies were conceived again. The elder asked why he did not follow the army while going to the Great Shen, because of this, Linlin got rid of her maiden purity. The general admitted that he was his fault and was ready for punishment. The old man rose from the place and replied that he had no authority to punish someone. He put his hand on her husband's shoulder and reported that the emperor still ordered Linlin to grab, to use it as a healing catalyst for training. The general was worried that the Great Shen has powerful allies, so it would not be easy to grab them. However, this time the elder was about to take part in the battle. Departing, the man thought that these old fools chase after beauty, and because of this, they pulled the kingdom into a deep pit. He was annoyed that they were also forced to hike, because it is not easy to find people for it. The general understood that one person would have to turn. A huge crowd gathered in the Great Shen dynasty to meet the empress and his sovereign, who returned to his father's home. Residents wished the lords of good health and thousands of years of life. As a result, the emperor received a large number of karma. The baby was annoyed that these people had only wished for a millennium. But the hero did not condemn them because ordinary people were busy with survival, so they have no idea about the sections of the world of improvement. Upon arrival, the state advisor reported that news from the border require urgent consideration, as well as many more cases are waiting for the empress's decision. The subjects began to greet the lords. After that, the woman ordered them to stand up and report everything that happened until they were. The empress reported that there was a flood in the southern province, so she urgently sent people to help and ordered them not to waste a moment. After consideration of most cases, Linlin has announced that the meeting is over today and everyone can disperse. Wang was incredibly happy about this announcement because he was very bored in such events. He did not like to work so much. The baby asked the owner where he was going. The man replied that he agreed with the state mentor to go to look at the right minister caught by the day, Yue Xin, because if she managed to conquer her, then the girl can become another strong ally. Gu Linyu began to bow and greet the emperor, but the guy asked her not to ceremony. They entered the heavenly prison, where the most dangerous criminals were maintained. If something serious happens, only the empress can stop them. The baby was afraid of the surrounding atmosphere, and Wang did not understand why, because all these hostages were only mortal people. One of them prisoners asked the handsome man to approach, offering to fall with him. He did not like the hero at all, and he asked the offender whether he was crazy at all. The state advisor led the sovereign to the first-class chamber where Jue Xin was closed. If it were not for the treasure of the emperor who suppressed force, the prison would not be able to keep it. Opening the door, Gu Linyue warned that the right minister was an incredibly strong opponent, so she asked her husband to be careful. He assured that there was nothing to worry about and asked her to leave. The rope, with a dissatisfied expression, the woman slept on the floor, leaning against the wall of the camera. Wang Yang approached her and began to check whether the right minister was breathing and whether he has a temperature. When the turn came to the heartbeat, Yu Yixin, feeling bad intentions, suddenly opened her eyes. She demanded that she be released from here, threatening that when she got out, he would kill the emperor. The woman was a real beauty, but the character was unpleasant. The systemic spirit noted that, although Juexin is constantly rude, it can be re-educated. Wang acknowledged that this is a really good idea. He turned to his arsenal technician and found the same sacred, only with a slightly changed name. After reading the text, the emperor concluded that in order to capture control over Wei Xin, one must first destroy her old seal. With the help of the divine eye, the man was going to see where the holy symbols were hidden. The hero learned that all this time the right minister was controlled by the celestial technique of managing puppet. He took her chin to open his mouth and put a neutralizing seal there. The guy was convinced that soon she would obey him. The man clamped his cheeks with a confused Hui Xin, who did not understand what was happening, and threw a piece of paper to her throat. The course of events is transferred to one heavenly dungeon, where a woman named Ying Manian was kept. She felt that someone dared to destroy her seal and became interested in who did it. Her camera included General Chu Tianchen and asked Ying Manian as she was in heavenly prison. The girl recognized one of the prominent figures of Suyua and asked what made him visit a dungeon. General asked if Ying Manian would believe that he came to release her. The girl laughed fun, because if the words of the usurper could be believed, then pigs would have learned to climb trees. She knew that if her husband had not regretted a long-standing puppet, it would have been killed for a long time. In response to these words, Chu Tianchen began to squeeze his hand, which suppressed the woman's spiritual energy, and begged the general to stop. The man hoped that after such a gesture, she would be ready to talk to him in a good way. The general reported that Yang Jian was abducted and said Manian that if he helps kill one scum, he would receive freedom. The poor woman knew so much that she had no choice except to execute his order. Manian considered Chu Tianchen simply pathetic, because he did not inherit the tenth of the father's mind. She was convinced that when she came out of prison, he would be a bad. Meanwhile, the emperor got a little bit, studying the new technique. Although the old seal was destroyed, he could not understand how to manage the skill. The baby told the owner that there are many methods of managing puppets, so you should not be limited to the old way. The hero acknowledged that in her words it makes sense. Flipping through the book, he came across one seal that looked quite tempting to use. The emperor looked at Juexin and announced that he may be hurt, so he asked her to suffer a little. The whole city felt the flow of incredible force that had emerged from the distance. The frightened maids could not understand what was happening. The empress suggested that it happened in the direction of Heavenly Prison, where her husband was now. Judging by the noise that arose through this technique, the hero was convinced that it could not help but work. When Jushin returned to her senses, she could not understand where she was and asked her husband if he was her master. Wang Yang was glad heard and acknowledged that the pink seal was really amazing. The baby greeted the owner with the successful conquest of the ancient marionette spirit and issued 3 imperial pills of awakening of mind and spiritual energy. The reward had a very interesting effect, the awakening of the intelligence of the pet and raising the level. The hero took 1 imperial pill and pulled it into his mouth with a puppet Guixin. After that, the woman's level increased from the 8th degree of the Great Emperor to the 9th. The effect of the awakening of the mind really worked. The girl did not even need additional training to call the boy the owner. He gave her another name, Wu Xuanji, which meant the mystical conqueror. The emperor turned to heaven and earth and ordered the command of the forces of yin and yang to open the moving shackles. Immediately after his release, the puppet attacked Wang Yang and clamped him in arms. The baby watched sarcastically because she knew that she would start the most interesting now. Zhuangji did not understand why the owner was so confused, because now it could be closer to him. Wang was shocked when he learned that he had put a seal of crazy love, after which the puppet becomes incredibly active in relation to him. The technique can only be updated after 100 years. Xuanji said she was very hot and asked the owner whether he could not help her undress. The hero thought that this system was specifically substituted, but the baby was here. The empress was agitated because of the incredible flow of energy that came from prison, so she came to find out if her husband was all right. There she saw a crucified hostage and asked her lover what he was doing. The hero replied that it was a great misunderstanding and asked for permission to explain everything. Linlin said she realized that through things could miss the mood of Wang and said it was her mistake. Then she noted that if her husband wanted to organize the support of the concubines so, and asked why he turned to the puppet. The state councillor said that it was her fault because she did not control the situation, and if she knew, she would invite the sovereign to herself. Wang asked the woman to stop pouring oil into the fire at that point. The emperor explained that he actually went to prison to make Yuexin their ally, and noted that a small failure occurred in the girl's mind. Linlin apologized for her impulsiveness. She did not expect a man to go for such sacrifices for the sake of Great Shen. The state councillor considered it incredible that Wu Xuanji looks like a real one, although its intelligence and emotional stability were still desired. There is a certain period of action in the pill to awaken the mind, so it was necessary to wait before giving the girl one more. Xuanji found that she had 2 white chips for NGOs and decided to try whether they were working. However, the girl failed to fulfill her intentions because her body began as if the ward. It happened because of the emperor's anger, because she made him nervous. In a moment, the state councillor felt that the protective array was attacking again, and now 2 strong enemies attacked. Wang Yang found that 3 of them were actually, and their levels are not lower than the higher degree of the great emperor. The man materialized the sacred spear for Xuanji and told the girl to take him to prepare for battle. The level of the state advisor was too low, so she was ordered to stay in the yard. Her Majesty and the sovereign, accompanied by a new ally, went to study the brazen. Gu Lin Yu worshipped and wished good luck and a victorious return to its lords. On the protective barrier, the emperor met unfamiliar to him. The man asked the Brazen whether they did not know that now the big Sten was protected. All three rivals were on the stage of the great emperor. The son of the ruler of the Zuyu dynasty replied that he was indifferent who he was and ordered him to give him Linlin immediately, and then everyone would remain alive. The man recognized the ancestor of the king of the enemy dynasty and noted that their two advisors and four generals had already lost to him, and now their turn has come. Ying Manian admitted that this Wang Yang is very cute and powerful, directly her ideal. After these words, the girl felt severe pain in the heart and asked the emperor's son to stop. Shu Tianchen shouted Manian that he did not let her flirting with men and ordered to go immediately and kill Wang Yang. Otherwise, it would be bad. The hero asked the system that the amulet was holding that man in his hand and learned that he was the technique of soul management, which is quite common in the world of improvement. Ying Minian flirtatiously said a beauty that he, they say, sees that she is doing everything against her will. And she asked the boy, when he would attack, to be more condescending with her. Linlin annoyed this brazen fox. The empress ordered the girl to stay away from her husband, otherwise she would break her into pieces. Ying Minian said, sister, so that she would not be hot, and assured that she would be cautious and would not cause harm to her beloved. The elder ordered to stop the chats and grab the Linlin Empress to deliver it to the ruler to create the seal. He began to attack the first, using the stroke of the dark palm of hellish abyss. Xuanji stood in defense of the owner and shouted to the old man not to approach, because he is the greatest threat to her master. Ying Menian stretched her tape to the emperor and asked a sweetheart where he looks, because her opponent is her. The man began to defend himself, but the bandits of the rival wrapped his blade, preventing it from moving him from the place. Ying Minian was pleased that she so quickly managed to catch a strong beauty. The emperor did not manage to cut these ribbons, and when he saw the petals, he was lost at all. Ying Minian suggested that her husband go to her small world, and moved him there. Her majesty and puppet were lost when they saw Wang Yang disappeared. The boy surrounded a huge number of unusual petals that were definitely not for beauty. The hero saw a pink sky in front of him and could not understand whether he was under the array or in another space. Ying Menian was really surprised that a cute guy is quite calm after he got into this world. From his beauty, the girl was already dying, so she wanted to make Wang obedient a puppet. The emperor grabbed the sword's sleeve and replied that the one who could do so was not born. He understood that it was necessary to find a weak place of this strange array. The beauty asked the sweetheart whether she did not like this world, because she was specifically prepared for him. She threatened that when he came here, he may not even dream of going. Ying Manian is a mistress of this illusory space that can destroy everything. The protagonist did not think that her words about the extermination of everything were true, so he prepared to resist. The emperor used the technique of the celestial sword of 9 catastrophes, a blow to sunlight. Ying Minian was agitated because of the unexpected attack of the prisoner, because it didn't have to be so. She used the shield technique of ghostly clouds from the petals to protect herself from the impact. The girl did not understand why this crazy effect did not act on the effect of her space, because the higher creatures here were suppressed by strength. The guy tossed Manian an idea to think that he could be stronger than them. It seemed that his technique of playing the arts neutralizes the abilities of the rival. The baby asked the owner to be careful. Although this illusory space is just a fragment, his destruction can be sent to an endless void. The course of events returns to a fight in the real world. Xuanji tried to overcome the elder, who used dark magic against it. The maid demanded to release the owner, but the opponent was certain that he would turn out a corpse, because the illusory space of Ying Manian was able to destroy the usual hire. Xuanji ordered the old man to shut up and use the attack of the flying meteor of the starry glow against him. The elder defended himself with a dark palm, a stroke of hidden power. The girl was just a puppet, and he was interested in her levels so sharply growing. Shu Tianqian did not expect Juixin rank to rise. It really surprised him. The Blonde Order not to call it, because the owner gave her a new name, Wu Xuanji. The general shouted the elder so that he did not restrain him, and as it should be dealt with a traitor. The man was annoyed that Chu Tianqian dared to indicate him. He would have long been hung up for him if the emperor had not left the boy alive for his purposes. Linlin sent a blade to General and asked where the woman had a lover, and threatened that if something happened to him, then she would not forgive it. Tianqian replied that no one came out alive from the illusory space Minion. The man did not expect that the empress was so beautiful if it were not for his father's order. He would have long taken her into the harem. Linlin became angry when he heard it and attacked the opponent, wishing him death. The general asked the beauty whether she thinks that there is too much difference between them, and added that she would have to be tamed, because with such a cloud character and ruin all pleasure. But the empress was convinced that as soon as Wang Yang got out, she would deal with Chu Tianqian as a street dog. The events are back to the Ying Manian's illusory space, to which she moved herself and the opponent. The girl has long been worried about one question. How did the emperor be removed from Wei Xin? Wang Yang was surprised because it seemed quite simple, and replied that he was shooting such primitive things in an instant. Ying Manian was hard to believe it, because she once spent 100 years to turn Juexin into a spiritual puppet. The hero said that the girl herself can see how much the minister is given to him. Once the man was so easy to remove the symbol of control from her, the woman suggested that he could conclude an agreement with Wang. The emperor did not understand what Ying Manian thought of, because they were still enemies. The girl was ready to give everything if Wang Yang would help her get rid of the terrible restriction that Chu Tianqian put on her. She began to remove the ribbons to show a little man. The emperor and the systemic spirit made it aware of how Ying Manian did it. The hero believed that it was not quite right. Chu Tianqian said Linlin's beauty that it is better to give up so as not to complicate her life, but she could not afford it. Ying Minian's illusory world disappeared, and the girl herself began to return to reality. She appeared behind the general's back and reported that this Wang Yang could not stand the games at all, and that next time he would choose someone more reliable. Linlin was very frightened without seeing her husband with her, and asked the fox loudly that she did with him. Chu Tianqian was convinced that this Wang Yang was no longer a dweller. No one has yet been alive from Ying Manian's illusory space. Xuanji, having heard it, lowered the spear. She could not believe that her master had lost. Ying Manian put her hands and said the general that they had already lost the greatest threat, so it was time to fulfill their promise. Chu Tianqian brazenly spread his hands and replied that he did not remember promising the girl something. Manian was angry because this vicious liar dreamed of not keeping his own word. The general said that a girl is only a dog that has no right to talk to him about any conditions. In response to such cheeky words, the man got a sword in his back that punched his chest through. Chu Tianqian was exhausted by the girl that she was a traitor who made a very low. Suddenly, Wang Yang appeared and replied that using nasty methods against such as the general is quite fair. Chu Tianqian has sent his woman to worry his woman 3 times, so this attack was a gift for him. The general did not understand that it was for technology and how the emperor was able to sneak up so imperceptibly. If his heart was not shifted from birth, the man would have died. Linlin was incredibly glad when her cute turned back and asked if the woman did not do anything with him. Wang Yang assured that there was nothing to worry about and that everything is under his control, because such a pathetic space could not keep her husband. At that moment, Wang Yang and the baby saw the naked part of the body of Ying Manian. The systemic spirit asked the owner to keep himself in his hands. The girl said that he was once part of the imperial family of Sui, but was trapped by the elder from the house of Chu. It was embedded with a symbol and made captured, taking away all the property and forces. Now the emperor knew who was really Chu Tianqian, a traitor of the crown. Then he asked Ying Manian which would receive for help in removing her seal. The girl noted that Wang Yang was really able to negotiate, and promised that if he removed this symbol, she would fully belong to him. The Lord agreed to the agreement and began the release process, apologizing for the inconvenience. He used the technique of the full release dragon's claw, and in a moment, the symbol from the body of Ying Manian disappeared. The baby congratulated the owner on the performance of a good cause and gaining a holy skill called the technique of extraordinary abyss. The hero liked that this system was so hard-working. However, he thought it was something like reincarnation technique, and it turned out that it was just invisibility. The baby explained that this is not quite so, because after activating this technique, the master will not be able to detect no one except the saint, and no one will succeed. Wang Yang looked at his wife, noticed that she had a broken clothes, and asked what had happened. He then turned to Tianchen and asked how he dared to touch his wife, threatening that he would break him into pieces. The general told the guy that it was why he had to put his head out with his sword immediately. But now he missed his chance. The man was about to show all the power of the genus Chu. After these words, his body reached the limit of the emperor in a moment, and only a half step to the saint remained. The man was sure that he was now the only ruler of heaven and earth, and asked who dreamed of appealing. Wang took to the hands of his heavenly blade and was about to go into battle. He was annoyed that some worthless brave man died in front of him. When General Su Yue focused, two giant fiery palms appeared behind him. Wang Yang sent to the rival the technique of heavenly manifestation of 9 divine swords of fate. Hellish Sky. General Sui answered him with a dark chain of ghostly evil. A rupture of the dark continent. Two opponents faced their techniques trying to overcome each other. The Chu Tianchen hit was stronger. He rolled the legs of the abbot of a sect of a roof sword. Ye Linlan did not understand how it was possible, because her husband was always invincible. The general, laughing, shouted that he thought that the emperor was worthy of something, and it turned out that he could not even withstand one blow. However, when he heard the opponent's voice behind his back, he quickly became embarrassed. Wang was surprised that he really decided that he would be able to end with him with one attack, and he was interested in how the man was able to get so high. The hero shocked the body of General with the heavenly manifestation of 9 divine swords of fate, a blade that torn the gods and demons. After this blow, the emperor was satisfied with the opponent of a good copier and dropped him away. The body of the defeated general flew throughout the space, where he was gammed there or here. Wang noted that Chu Tianchen was not so self-confident and said that he was half a step before the Supreme Tao, and now he was just lying as a dog had died. The Lord grabbed the blade and cut off with one wave the exhausted rival right. Chu Tianchen began to be a painful elder so that he would save him as soon as possible. In the meantime, the old man fought with his former right minister, and, seeing in what condition the guy realized that he could not just leave him there. He rejected Xuanji away the dark chain of the ghostly evil, the rupture of the black continent. The man rushed to Chu Tianchen, realizing that if he did not have time, the whole plan of the emperor would go under the tail. At this point, Wang Yang explained to the general that his greatest mistake was that he dared to challenge him that time, and advised to learn to behave as a person in his next life. In the next moment, the emperor took his head from his shoulders with a light sword. When the elder got to the place and grabbed the body of the man, it was too late. Holding in the hands of a killed general, the old man thought about how to explain all the Lord. Now, he aggressively asked Wang Yang, or at least he knew who he had just killed, because he was in front of him, the son of Emperor Sui, and the true ruler of the dynasty. The hero replied that the one who dared to challenge him just received his merit. In addition, he knew that his throne Tianchen had seized by force, and it could be said that it was a help in restoring justice. The old man ordered the young man not to be so bold and stressed that the power of the CHU clan was not subject to him. Wang has the idea. Why not check him today how deep the swamp of their family? The elder annoyed such arrogance. He shouted that today he would personally tear the guy into pieces and revenge on Chu Tianchen. He also did not give him the thought of what level this Wang Yang was. The hero prepared to use the technique of heaven and earth. the great dragon of the firelight, moving from the 6th degree of Emperor Tao to the 9th. The events returned to the day when the emperor ordered the elder personally to accompany Chu Tianchen to catch Ye Linlan. There were almost no strong people in the Grand Dynasty, so the ruler asked the man if he could want him to go personally and grasp that scoundrel. The elder bowed his head to the ground and begged not to be angry, and assured that he would certainly go and make sure that Chu Tianchen would grasp Ye Linlan as soon as possible. As soon as the emperor receives the body of the degenerate phoenix, he will be able to increase his level and prolong life. Finally, he ordered the man that he was obliged, no matter how he was, to deliver the general back. Chu realized that it was too dangerous to stay here, and to return means to sign a death sentence, so he only had to flee. The man wanted the emperor to die as soon as possible. Then he would finally be able to become the head of the family of the Eastern continent. He sent a dark ghost evil technique for Wang, a wave of cutting haze. The hero really wanted to see what this old man was capable of, who was already in the grave. The systemic spirit could not understand how the owner was able to take this blow to the forehead, because CHU was a half-step towards the highest lord. The rival created a huge golden bell that had time to give him time to escape from the scene. It closed the emperor the whole species, but he did not worry, because he knew that the old man would not go anywhere. Using the technique of dark, ghostly shadow, the elder tried to sew his legs as soon as possible until Wang came to her senses. The emperor quickly tracked the scoundrel and now wanted to see where he would go from him. He used the technique of chess against the enemy, a flying oath of absolute rest. The old man noticed that his opponent was really cunning, and to kill him, he did not regret any tricks. Hearing this, the hero advised Chu not to flatter himself, and emphasized that he was not worthy of using true force on it. The elder moved from the level to the highest bishop to the 1st degree of Taos. He shouted in an incredibly loudly, so that his rage began to spread in the air. Linlun was very surprised to see the pressure of the higher bishop for the first time. Ying Manian was not surprised at all, so she asked the girl how it could be an empress and have so little experience. The girl could not imagine what madness attacked the old CHU if he broke up so desperately to the highest level. She thought that it is possible to hide and lie down to the bottom for a while. The baby told the owner that this old man is now the highest Gaza and asked if he did not mind if the system intervened and helps him. But the hero did not see a serious threat. Wang was convinced that the man was still far from true holy level, but Chu was ready to put everything on the horse to tighten the guy with him in hell. Xuanji put the spear forward and said that while she was here, she would not allow the lord to approach. Wang warned the subject that this old man had already gone crazy, and if he entered the battle with him, it may be injured. However, Xuanji still wanted to do it because she was worried because she had not yet won any enemy for the owner. Wang stroked her and replied that there was nothing wrong with this because the girl tried well today. He assured that the old man would be able to understand himself. When Xuanji retreated, the emperor appealed to Chu and ordered him to stop howled and to take death. The elder concentrated on a future attack, going to see how this boy would stand the blow of a higher Taos in full force. The huge hand sank in the direction of the emperor, and it seemed that she would instantly crush him. Linlin was incredibly excited to see that her husband is in danger and does not give signs of life. Chu was sure that in an instant and a trace from the emperor would not remain. That's what the difference in levels means. Suddenly, Wang Yang appeared behind him and mockingly stressed that the death of the old man is already under his nose, and he did not even recognize it. The man punched the opponent's chest with his heavenly sword. Chu was only able to ask what the technique was before death. The abbot of the spiritual sword sect replied that the old man is not worthy of knowing the name of the skill. The girls were very worried about whether she was all right after this attack, but that soap replied that everything was well with him. Ying Manian thought that this Wang Yang could be a great support, because it is not only incredibly good, its power simply has no limits. The baby tried to detain the owner before leaving, because he had not yet received the award for the task. The man was surprised because the system usually issued a reward immediately and asked if she had women's days. The girl was first denied because the spirit could not be like that, but then assumed that it was possible. Wang noticed that the system of absolute idleness would behave in the same way as last time. He had an assumption that the award was waiting for him, namely the fragment of heavenly Tao. The man turned out to be absolutely right and received the second part of the famous artifact. They moved into the system world, and the baby asked the owner to insert a fragment and see what the changes would be. The guy was surprised that in this world there was something that the spirit does not know. Tiny explained that the heavenly Tao is the laws that make up this world. It is higher than all. At the moment, her authority was not fully unlocked, so the girl could not predict everything. The hero took a fragment from her hands and moved him to a small rock that flew in space. Golden glow began to emerge from the artifact immediately. From the 9th degree of the Great Emperor, the man moved to the boundary of cultivation, as well as from the 9th to the 8th grade of the path. Chess, seeming stupidity. The baby happily congratulated the owner with another breakthrough and a new step on the way to heavenly Tao. The hero was satisfied with the increase, although the last name sounded somehow incapacitated. The system advised the gentleman not to underestimate this technique, because with it, it can hide its level of cultivation and avoid its detection by any means below the level of the saint. The emperor compared this with the function, pretend to be weak and then humiliate everyone. He liked that he could portray a pathetic newcomer and then unexpectedly wreck enemies. Wang stroked Xuanji on his head and ordered her to Siridi and pick up all the valuable ones, promising to reward the girl generously. Linlin asked the man caringly, or after such a cruel battle he was not exactly injured. The ruler replied to his wife that he was normal because everything was spread into cods with ease. The empress was incredibly worried and did not think that her beloved is so brave and charming. It made her heart shake. Ying Minian hugged her husband behind that forced his wife to get angry. She ordered that immediately. The girl asked Lin why she worried so much, because he should trust her soap. The woman ordered the foxes to stop the pretext and stressed that she did not think that her fraud would remain invisible. Ying Minian did not expect the sister to be so smart and confirmed that she was right, because she really wanted to give herself to gratitude for salvation. Linlin has threatened that if she dares at least to touch her husband, it will be immediately destroyed. The girl was surprised that the Empress really wanted a fight, because the difference at their level is too big. Due to the tense environment, the hero decided to go to check how they're with Prey and Xuanji. He knew that the quarrel women were scary, so it was worth noting heels rather. A joyful maid with a bunch of things in her hands announced that she removed all the preciousness from the defeated. All of the obtained was a common imperial junk, except for a shabby Saint Savoy. The gentleman ordered Xuanji to pass all found in the spiritual sword sect. The news has spread throughout the country that the ruler Suyue died in the Great Sten, and Her Majesty, in honor of this, announced a general amnesty and even cancelled taxes. Some of the subjects were worried that this could be a reason for the revenge of the neighboring dynasty, but most were convinced that the sovereign would not allow the state to suffer. After the battle, the emperors brought Ying Manian to the interrogation room to pull out important information from it. The girl asked Wang what was so guilty that he was so wary of her. Her Majesty proudly said that now Ying Manian is suspected of invading the Great Shen and advised her to tell everything she knows, and otherwise she will find herself in a dungeon. The girl thought that Linlin's sister wanted to use this opportunity for revenge and apologized, saying that she was able to be silent. The Empress asked her husband to tell her something, so he advised Mrs. Ying that it would be better for her if she was ready for cooperation. The girl did not expect that the Wang brother loves such games, and replied that she would be suitable for anything, prison and illusory space. The husband gave his wife a green ring and stressed that it was possible to do without it. Ying Manian was indignant that the rulers did not understand the jokes at all, so she seemed and said that she would answer everything they wanted. Linlun heard that the red-haired one was the real heir to the Suyui dynasty, and she wondered how it happened that the Chu family seized the throne. 600 years ago, when Yingmanian traveled alone, her father was sheltered by one wandering clan. In just 100 years, they usurped power and then persuaded the emperor to tie a girl with Chu Tianqin. On the engagement, the ancient ancestor of the Chu family and their elders suddenly struck. They killed Yingmanian's father and made her captive, thus capturing the Sui dynasty. Wang was surprised by the naivety of true rulers who gave themselves deceive and then staged a bloody wedding. Just a farce. He asked the girl whether he was well aware of the family and what their current forces. Manian sincerely thanked her brother Wang because he killed Chu Tianqin and Qi Shimin, which immediately weakened the power of the clan half. Now they only have Chu Shixuan and another old man who are not much stronger than them. Hearing that the Chu family remained only 2 old men, Linlin suggested just to wipe them off the face of the earth. Wang was surprised by such an unexpected statement from his wife and advised her to think again. The hero understood that the extermination of Chu family was inevitable, but to remove all 9 genera, too much. If you miss one, the consequences can be catastrophic. He was even more surprised when his wife ordered the order to pass the order for the appointment of the sovereign to the commander in chief of all troops and instructed to choose the day of the ceremony and to start a hike to the Suyui dynasty. Yingminian was incredibly sensed because she thought it was for the sake of Wang wanted to solve the war. The man did not like that she also poured oil into the fire. Linlin assured Mrs. Yingminian that she should not worry about revenge because the mistress is going to take it. The empress very much wanted to erase the Su dynasty from the face of the earth so that this mean fox has no desires for her husband. Yingmenian, instead, thought that when they would destroy the Qi family and return the throne, she would give it as a gift to his brother Wang, and then they would be on equal footing. But after all future stormy events, the emperor only dreamed of a long vacation. The man asked, dissatisfied, whether it is possible to postpone the attack on the Zuyu dynasty because he and his wife were still on a wedding trip. Linlan laughed and said that there was no such thing in 4 seas and 8 lands. Chu Tianqin just died, and the neighboring kingdom is now in full chaos. If not spoken now, when? Her Majesty ordered 2 servants to help the sovereign because she did not want to lose a favorable time for the oath ceremony. The hero pleaded with a woman so that he would not be able to go because he does not like public events. Linlin strictly answered that it is impossible because soon it would officially appoint him commander-in-chief. In the capital of the Zhui dynasty, they actively argued for who should take the throne. The senior prince helped the ruler with public affairs for a long time, and the younger was much stronger. The annoying men tried to lure the left minister to the side of their favorite, praising him before everyone. Although both were his students, Qi Wenyuan annoyed their stupidity. In a rude tone, one of the audience ordered the elders to silence, emphasizing that he would decide who would become the ruler of the Suyui dynasty. Chu Tiande asked to listen carefully and ordered to immediately prepare the climbing ceremony to the throne. The man sought to establish full control over the country as soon as possible. The elders reproached Nahai because he was just a son of a concubine, and if we talk about family ties, he is just a cousin of the emperor, so there is no right to claim the throne. One of the usurpator's servants asked what he should do with these noisy people. Chu Shixuan ordered all the protesters to be killed immediately, causing them to quickly stay without their extremities and organs. Tianda sat on the throne and announced that he would control the throne and asked the subjects if anyone was against it. Everyone began to bow, fearing the anger of the usurpators. Meanwhile, a large number of people gathered near the great Sten dynasty. Subjects glorify a couple of 2 sovereigns, Its Majesty Yelinlin and the savior Wang Yang. It was said that the supreme mentor got an increase, which meant that the prestige of the sect of the spiritual sword would also rise. Jinyao couldn't wait for the Lord to take her on a new hike. Xuanji thought that today the sovereign is even more beautiful than yesterday. and Manian merged because again, the YE Linlan was in the spotlight. The state mentor has announced that a favorable time has come, and the sacrifice of heaven begins. This action really looked grand. The table was generously lined with food that was sacrificed to the gods. Wang wanted it to end it, and was afraid to think about how many stages it would take. The state councillor has announced that the sacrifice was completed, and it was time to announce the manifesto. Linlan appealed to the people with the words that their enemy had neglected diplomatic consent and broke into their lands, pursued a tyrannical policy that caused public excitement. The woman apologized to her lover because they just married, and she already put such responsibility on him. Wang assured that all was well and suggested that he would have time by the end of the honeymoon. The hero broke his head over what to say at the ceremony, when the baby advised the owner a new AI assistant who could solve any problems and write 5,000 words for a damn speech in a second. Although Wang was lazy but not paralyzed, so he asked not to plan everything so much for him. In addition, he was sure that no one would want to listen to such a long chat. The emperor said that the Suyue dynasty must be destroyed, because while they sat quietly at the wedding feast and listened to music, they suddenly attacked and tried to steal the bride. He raised his hand with the tiger's medallion and announced a hike that would defeat the rebels, end the tyranny, and wipe the neighboring kingdom from the face of the earth. The people supported the man with a rabbit noise and began to repeat his speech as a mantra. The left minister reported to the new emperor that the great Sten dynasty had sent a 20,000th army under the pretext of sovereign Wang Yang and was preparing to invade their land. Xu Tiande considered this decision very naive and wondered that the neighboring kingdom was really thinking that he would be able to destroy their state in such quantities. Qi Wenyuan understood that 20,000 soldiers were nothing for them, but stressed that Wang Yang was very dangerous because even the late emperor died of his hand. Xu Tiande was very arrogant from the left minister. He shouted at him, asking how he dreamed of pointing him. Xi Wenyuan saw with his own eyes that this rude, even the little finger of the late emperor was not worth it, and bitterly suggested that the Suicus dynasty was doomed. Chu Tiande pointed to him with his finger and ordered him to go with 1,000,000 soldiers and crush the shed of Big Shen. The body of the left minister trembled from the fact that the emperor proposes to fight against Wang Yang again. The 20,000th army of the Great Sten has already started a campaign. They reached the next dynasty in the Pegasus. The soldiers were glad that their states finally had the opportunity to strike. After this battle, they could finally return home, buy land, and get married. Take care of 20,000 people for Wang was too troublesome. The man thought it would be easier to penetrate the CHU den and cut them all on their own. Tiny expressed the owner's desire to manage the detachment and activated the system of invincible military campaign. The assumption that it will be possible to simply click and win battles. The girl proudly said that her master has nothing impossible for her master. The Invincible State war system showed the forces of the kingdoms against 500 against 3,000, not in favor of the Sten dynasty. Tiny explained that information about 2 countries and a comparative analysis of their military power will be displayed here on the main screen. The emperor thought that the spirit broke because it shows such meaningless numbers. The baby explained to the owner that the result of the war depends not only on the quantitative factor, but also on many others that affect victory. Wang agreed that her words made sense. The spirit said that the invincible system includes many functions: complete geographical observation of the battlefield, intellectual support, command, intelligence network. The emperor saw a window called Arsenal of the National War, and one idea came to his mind. Italian guns were available in the choice of weapons. The man asked the system whether they could be exchanged. In this way, he wanted to have a little fun. But he did not like the spirit because it is a world of cultivators, and to use such tools in battles against them is too dishonest. The owner reproached that the invincible war system was also unfair, so told the girl that he would be better adapted to the situation. So the baby was forced to calculate Wang Yang 100,000 points of a military campaign and upgrade the store. The hero found the divine weapon of the firestorm for just 1,000 points for the gun, and took 50 pieces, but he did not like their appearance, so he asked the system to add skin to the skin. The course of the events is transferred to the camp of Suyu's army, which was laid only 10 kilometers from the great Sten dynasty. The main chamber discussed that according to the reconnaissance reports of no more than 30,000 soldiers, this number was negligible against their 100,000 army. The commander explained the general that the situation on the battlefield was still unclear, because Wang Yang was a strong danger, so it would be worthwhile to wait for reinforcement. In addition, the left minister ordered not to act until he arrives, but Gao Yuelin was indifferent to it. He believed that the new power, new orders, and the elder Qi Wenyuan lost its influence for a long time. The general shouted to pass the order so that the whole army would go on the offensive to destroy the forces of Great Shen. Meanwhile, in the camp of the Army of the Kingdom Yi Linlan, soldiers began to be lined up in combat order. The men were worried that they had only less than 30,000 combat veterans, so there was little chance of winning. But most were convinced that their gentlemen would not allow full defeat. Jin Yao informed the mentor that the enemy came in the number of 100,000 people and asked if he was sure that he could withstand. Wang assured the girl that he could not worry because he has everything under control. The supreme mentor was pleased that this Gao Yuelin general was so naive. After all, he took and the whole army went on the attack, making it only easier to enemies. The baby praised the owner for the brilliant plan and reported that the system was already in anticipation of the beginning of the battle. When the general learned that the enemies had already built a combat order, he ordered the subjects to congratulate the rivals at first, and when they did not stand, they would go to attack and crush them. The archers, in not very good humor, shot as they were afraid of the wrath of their commander. The army of rivals saw the attack, and all soldiers were ordered to lift their protective shields. Wang did not understand why the recruits were panicking, because they have protective formations that stopped weapons without problems. The emperor wanted to pretend that their army was retreating, and ordered the subjects to move back 100 steps. The advanced detachment, which was already a little injured from the explosions, began to retreat quickly. The general thought that the enemies did not really withstand, and ordered the attack to crush the Great Shen. The military with the spears went forward, intending to kill everyone and erase the dynasty from the face of the earth. The emperor was disappointed with the lightness of the rivals, so he decided that it was time to show them the true horror of war. He was heavily shocked by Qin Yao by order to bring Italian guns. The army of the Suyu dynasty was extremely confused when she saw the enemies exported in advance the incomprehensible cars. A guy with a red flag in his hands ordered the partners to charge Italian guns. The men put sacred seals on the weapon, after which she began to shoot loudly. A huge number of enemy soldiers immediately worn on the spot from powerful attacks. General Gao Yuelin did not understand where the big Sten army came from and how it could be so powerful. When Wang Yang saw that the rivals were broken, he ordered the fire to be opened on all the rear of the enemy. The general saw that his soldiers wanted to retreat and swung to one, ordered to destroy enemies and not to give up. It was his fatal mistake, because the man did not have time to notice how a projectile flew on him. The explosion rejected Gao Yuelin into the air and wounded severely everyone who stood nearby. The enemies did not understand how possible and began to suspect that Wang Yang was using dark magic. The loud shots did not stop. The poor men tried to escape, but the fire overtook them. Wang was satisfied with how his army defeated enemies so quickly. It was even easier than with the gods at the usual level. A system window was shown to the man, which announced the murder of Gao Yuelin commander. The baby greeted the main character on the first victory that was very easy for him. The girl explained that everything is so simple thanks to a modified super system of invincible wars. She could crush any enemy. After that, the baby reported that the owner had already prepared a unique prize. Wang wanted to get a new, powerful weapon as soon as possible. Soldiers were also amazed at the capacity of the Wang symbolic weapons. They rejoiced that he was on their side and went to collect trophies from fallen enemies. The captured prisoners were convinced that the emperor was related to demonic forces. Otherwise, he had such a weapon. Xuanji ordered men not to chatter and for every spoken word beat them on their heads. The girl threatened that if she hears something like that, he will instantly bury them all. Xuanji was sad to watch the army destroying all the enemies, and she did not even have time to show herself. When the girl heard that the owner had called her to herself, she blushed with pleasure and was incredibly happy. She thought that here he was, her chance to prove her martial power to the sweetheart. Xuanji approached the commander-in-chief and asked if he was going to start the next fight, stressing that he could easily entrust her with an advanced detachment. Wang, relaxed on the knees of Qin Yao, replied to the girl that there was no need for this yet and added that he had an interesting artifact for her. Xuanji did not like that this thing was some black and ugly, and it was inconvenient to use it. The man pointed to a broken mountain wall and asked the maid if she could have the same effect. Xuanji looked there and discouraged that she would not have to do it. The emperor told the girl next time to take this artifact and beat on the front line to surprise him. She was very happy and promised she would not let. Xuanji knew if it was a gift from the owner, then he is definitely very powerful. The commander-in-chief of enemy troops could not believe that the whole detachment had died in just 2 hours. They realized that something was clear here, but the subject was not lying. After the flash of the light, they just broke them into pieces, and they did not even understand what the enemy used. The fourth degree of the emperor mocked the fact that this Wang Yang used some strange weapon, and they were already trembling with fear. The elder reproached the cultivators that war is not a joke, and that they did not even imagine how deep the process is. But the men were sure that there was nothing complicated. They believed that ordinary exploding mascots could be bypassed if you act in the air. The warriors wanted to take off and apply their powerful spells. The cultivators promised that they would destroy the invaders in half a day. The minister agreed and asked to write their receipt with a military order. With the help of the Wang Invincible system, hugging Qin Yao, he saw that they were approaching a huge number of enemies that moved too quickly. It was clear that these were unusual soldiers. The girl was agitated because she did not feel the enemies, and Xuanji, having heard from the owner of the news, asked for permission to fight. The emperor ordered the subject to take the newly obtained artifact and show these enemies their place. When the cultivators arrived in the enemy territory, they did not find any protective formations and intelligence, and were surprised by the same faith of the great Shen. There they were, waiting for an angry Xuanji with a new sacred tool, Gatling's machine gun. The men laughed, believing that the right minister became so poor that she was even fighting a black artifact now, and suggested a girl. If she spends a night with them, they would give her a real weapon. The girl was annoyed with these empty chats, so she sent a machine gun to them and started shooting. The cultivators did not expect that the enemies would be able to get them even in the air, and began to fall to the ground one by one. The head of the detachment was ordered to escape. Their devastating defeat became inevitable. In just a few sight shots, the girl was able to kill almost all enemies who had no chance against such weapons. Xuanji was delighted with the capacity of this artifact. It is not only destructive, but also self-navigated. In just 50 strokes, she destroyed the attackers. Lifting Gatling's machine gun up, the girl gripped the owner that this thing was incredible. Wang Yang was pleased that all the elite enemy troops were destroyed in less than a minute, and acknowledged that scientific achievements were the best combat capability. The systemic spirit joyfully congratulated the owner on a successful victory in the next battle, and the hero asked to wait with a prize. He asked if it was possible to replace the reward with a flying ship that could bomb from space. The hero believed that orbital blows were real masculine entertainment. Then he began to make fun of the fact that the system could not satisfy his desire, and reproached her that he thought that she was almighty. The baby decided to protect her pride and promised that she would get a real secret artifact for the master. In the next moment, she showed the greatest treasure of the system, the famous 10,000 souls. This black flag with turtles looked creepy. The spirit informed that although it could not change the basic functionality, it is possible to choose a different appearance to it. The new gold flag with the yin-yang sign looked much more solid, which was more in line with the status of the great righteous Wang Yang. The hero suggested that this artifact has the ability, as of the novels of unification of twos under one flag, and was right. Any fresh soul in the last 3/4 of time can be collected inside. It was just in time, because Xuanji had just finished cleaning, so Wang went to collect trophies. The girl noticed the arrival of the owner and asked if he was doubting her. The man replied that he just came to harvest. He raised the flag over the dead bodies and ordered the unhappy souls to go as soon as possible. Xuanji felt her whole body trembling cold from this incomprehensible artifact. The souls of fallen enemies began to emerge from the bodies and absorb the flag one by one. This banner of the human emperor worked exactly as in the novel. The man wanted to study him later. The Suyue army reconnaissance announced that all CHU clan ministers and cultivators were killed. The puzzled men could not believe it, because how their elite was able to lose faster than Gao Yuelin. The troops generally turned to the left minister, asking what to do now. Qi Wenyuan reported that the imperial order has just come. They have to attack and destroy the great Shen army. But the warriors realized that Wang Yang would not be able to win. The left minister realized that the ruler's assignment could not be obeyed. He asked the comrades not to fall in spirit, because the capital sent cultivators who were understood by protective formations. The next day, the war between the dynasties again went into the active phase. Enemies were already preparing to attack. Wang knew that the commander-in-chief of the enemy was now Qi Wenyuan, and realized that it was much careful to be much careful, because this old fox was very cunning. Xuanji was appointed commander of the rearguard. The girl realized that this had her own reason and was not going to allow the enemy to win. The enemies ordered their soldiers to attack, and they immediately ran forward, armed with spears. Members of the Great Sten army began to shoot hostile soldiers from guns who were used in the first victorious battle. However, opponents from these attacks only twisted their face, continuing to move forward. Watching such strange behavior, Wang immediately guessed that it was an illusion planned by Qi Wenyuan. The man said it was time to use high-tech tools to break the plans of the enemy. The system was captured by the fact that the hero, every time it was possible to find the key to win. A large number of volatile metal discs began to illuminate the enemy army with green rays. What the illusion disappeared, and their spell, which hid the presence, ceased to work. The hero acknowledged that Qi Wenyuan was not in vain, and was going to see what he was in stock. The emperor ordered his soldiers not to stop and continue the shelling. The enemy detachment protected the golden barrier, created by the capital cultivators. The intelligence officer reported to the minister that the shelling is too strong, and the masters of protection were no longer standing. The man ordered them to stay at any cost, and then with confidence he added to the cultivators, "The victory is already close." The emperor saw that the enemies also put a protective barrier, so he realized that the game was getting serious.